I know. I am so sorry about the last time. I really do
Good,
apologise.
man. It's all good. It's all good. Honestly, it's not. I had nothing planned, mate. Other than watching. I think it was watching the rugby. No, wait. What was
Right.
it? Not the rugby. No, the women's football.
Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah,
on,
yeah, yeah.
I
It
was
was
on
really
that.
good, wasn't it?
It was actually. It's probably the best football game I've ever watched.
I know. Yeah, I'm a total convert. It was like, this is better than the blokes. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
200%. We were sitting there, and I was kind of like, actually, this is kind of good. Not having the kazoo because I'm engrossed in this
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
Like the woman just giving it some. So yeah, 100%, man, 100%. So no, it's all good. It's good to see you, man. Good to see
And
you.
you, man. And you,
Yeah.
you've been away again, haven't you? You've been off in Iceland.
Yeah, literally came back yesterday, man. Came back yesterday, so I'm just yeah, when you get back from a trip, you're sort of a bit, you're still in trip mode, and you're still
So
sort of yeah.
that was
And
like
then
a month, wasn't it? You were away.
yeah, about 6 weeks, 6 weeks
Oh,
running two tours. I mean, have you been to Iceland?
I have, but never on the bike. I went there with my wife actually to see the Northern Lights, and the
Yeah.
night we were due to see it, all the fog came in and we missed it, so we didn't even get to see them.
That's the thing with Iceland is we were so fortunate with the weather. Literally, out of the whole time that we were there, we only had about 2.5 days of Icelandic weather, which was rain, wind, the gusts, all that sort of stuff. It was mad, absolutely mad. So, we literally had sunshine. I was wearing shades every day, t-shirt, and the whole shebang. I mean, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought it was Iceland.
I was following on your socials, man. It looked beautiful. Looked so
Yeah.
good. 6 weeks as well. That's long enough for you to get, and you know what it's like. That's long enough for you to get into the I'm on the road sort of mindset, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
it's got to be a big jump coming back home.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, especially when you're not far as well. You know, it's only like 2.5 hour flight, and yet you're just seeing some sights, which is
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, obviously growing up in New Zealand and then seeing the South Island, and then kind of seeing Iceland. And Iceland was like New Zealand on steroids. I tell you,
Yeah.
it's just
It's
just
so rugged, isn't it? It's
Oh.
just like raw, brutal nature. Bang. There you go.
100%. Lord of the Rings should have been filmed in Iceland. I tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, have you got a tipple of choice?
I do.
Good man. No,
I'm on the wine. I'm on the wine because I had so much Icelandic beer. I think I'm losing my figure.
it's not something I usually worry about, as you can probably tell. I'm not sure. Sorry, dude. I've got a brew dog again. I've got a big stock of supplies of this. I don't know if you've heard the news. I don't know if you're a royalist or not, but here's to Queenie. God bless her soul. She's just passed. So sleep well, Mum. Safe journey. God save the king.
Yes,
Right.
indeed.
Okay then.
All the timing in itself, isn't it? So
Yeah. Who knows where we're going to go from here? But anyway, we'll not worry about that in this podcast. So, right, folks, welcome back to Brew Time. This week we're joined by Rhys Lawrey, who's also known as 2moroRider. Now, Rhys, if you've never heard of him, he is a dual world record breaking motorcycle adventurer. Is that fair to say?
I would say so. Yeah, that's fair. That's in a very small sense. Good points. Good points.
Now, there's going to be loads more to chat about, but shall we start with your round the world trip?
Absolutely. Well, that's the big daddy, isn't it? You got to start big.
Is.
You know, you got to start big. So
over to you. What happened?
Yeah, no. That was back in, obviously, it feels like ages ago now. I think I look at it sometimes and it's a whole different person, I tell you. But back in 2014, the sort of at the time was the first original sort of youngest person to circumnavigate the world record. And then
sorry, mate. Two ticks, apologies. Sorry. Sorry, mate. Apologies. My wife's been called back into work because of what's happened. So
there we go.
That's probably the last I'll see of her for the next 2 weeks, I think. So,
sorry,
mate. Apologies.
Yeah. No. That's all good. So back in 2014, first youngest person to circumnavigate the world. So that was leaving at the age of 22, and then finished at 24 years and 12 days. Young, so to speak. I'm 31 now, so it feels like a lifetime ago. it's almost 10 years, coming up to almost 9 to 10 years now since I actually left. So, and that was 57,000 miles, 71 countries, sort of one continuous trip at the age. And that was really, now looking back at it, obviously, I mean, it's quite good talking to you, Bruce, about this, because obviously I don't actually bring it up a lot these days. But no, it's not a lot as, because obviously there's other youngsters now who have beaten obviously my record, and that was the whole aspect. It was to inspire. I remember seeing, you know, yourself, and I remember seeing other people at shows before I even did the trip, and there was, no offense, but or to anyone out there, but I was the only youngest person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, back in the NEC shows, back then I was on the Globebusters stand, because obviously the folks Globebusters, and you know, I'm 18 years old, I'm 17, I'm on the stand trying to sell trips, and then every person I look at is like, oh, there's no like young people. And
that's right.
Yeah, and whereas now, obviously, I know there's four others now, four other young people, which is brilliant to see. Kane beat me by 12 days, and there's Henry Crew, and now there's Jack. All brilliant characters, and then it's not just them. Obviously, there's other, you know, there's Rhys, there's the other Rhys, the sidecar guys. I mean, they're all
right.
and then
Ben King, who sort of just got lost in
Ben King, and you know, Ben King as well, just somehow makes it. I don't know how, but he makes it. But it's brilliant to see. Like, I went to the ABR just recently, and to walk around then, to then compare, I remember way back in 2010, you know, 2013, and that, and way before my trip, what a difference it is now. And,
massive.
You know, massive, from younger faces to also more females as well. And it's just brilliant aspect of it. And that's really was one of the passions. That's why I started the whole name 2moroRider. It was Riders of Tomorrow, Riders of Tomorrow Riders.
This whole change in the sort of dynamic of overland travel, that's really caught me by surprise, because I thought we were the tail end of it. Like me and when I came back and you were just finishing your trip, and I kind of thought, I got the feeling like adventure travel, it had that big crescendo, that big peak after like Long Way Round and everything. And to me, it felt like, okay, well, it's done that, and we're just going to go back into the background now as a sort of, you know, like an island of motorcycles. It's just adventure travel. It's out there, because it was never a really big sort of niche within motorcycles, was it? And then the last sort of 5 years or so, it just seems to have gathered loads of momentum. And as you said, there's lots of youngsters coming in, there's loads of ladies coming in. And the ABR, I think the ABR this year totally transformed it. That was phenomenal, wasn't it, that festival?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that smashed it out of the park. I mean, you know, being on the same weekend as Glastonbury. And all this. I mean, it's just what a change from... I mean, like, I sit down sometimes with clients just recently, you know, talk about my bike is my round the world bike is in their factory, is in their museum, at the Triumph Factory Museum. Awesome. If you're not a Triumph fan, I mean, you just seeing the development of a bike literally from the crank itself all the way to the end, and it's part of the story and the history. And I was chatting to them about it, and they're like, oh, you know, back when we were doing that kind of thing, like big world trips. You know, obviously there wasn't many people, like you say. And then just recently, I mean, I moved back to New Zealand, 4.5, nearly 5 years ago. Now you try and say, oh, you were doing like all this influence and stuff when it wasn't even a thing. And it's kind of like, you know, it's one of these aspects of, yeah, it was kind of thing, you know, like, even like, whereas now, like what you do past the YouTube, it just helps accelerate. And what I think is, me personally, what I think is giving someone a tool to go out and actually do something, do it, and make things happen, because then they have a purpose. It gives them a purpose, because like my purpose was a world record inspiring. It gives other people a purpose to share their knowledge, share their experience, their inventions, and their stories. I don't know, it's amazing to see when you step back and look at it and you go, wow, this is
it's and you must get, I mean, I know I'm not the only one to get this. I've spoken to lots of other sort of motorcycle names, and I get messages from people, really quite profound and touching messages from people who say things like, you know, what an impact the trip has had on them and on their lives. And it's totally like, some people it's saved them because they've been in a dark place, and they thought that was the end of things, and that for whatever reason it's touched part of their soul, and it's made them sort of focus on something, and they've gone on, whether that's to travel by a motorbike or travel or fix a site in their mind that I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. It's given them like a drive and a focus in life. You must get that as well from people, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, especially back in the, especially after the trip, it was at this peak. And then even recent, I still get people, you know, you still get, like you said, you get the messages on Instagram, you get the messages on YouTube, and just people saying, wow, you know. And I think that just once you've got that niche, you've got that sort of that market, so to speak. It's like that, you know, so you've got the audience. The audience are looking at you and thinking, okay, everyone needs a bit of inspiration. Yourself, me, everyone needs that little bit of inspiration, and it's just helping them just sort of, you know what, you can do it. You know what, you can do that. You can do that, and that's it. And 100%. I mean, I take screenshots actually of everyone, because I hope that one day, I have it a little folder on my laptop, just because it's, you know, if I fall down, you know, it's like, right, okay, let's just look at, you know, the impact that I've made on people, on other younger people as well, and the change that has happened from young people to, you know, to even brands itself. It's brilliant. Yeah, I mean,
that's a great idea. Yeah, I wish I'd thought of doing that.
Well, I did do it a bit later, and I had to just, you know, one of those boredom. I think it was one of my lockdown sort of things of just back
just going through.
Yeah, you know, when life was a bit like, what do I do? Well,
yeah.
You know, and then just keep scrolling. You know,
that's been something that I've been not wishing to blow smoke up your arse, but that's something I've been very impressed with you. I remember chatting with you after we'd both finished our trips. I think it was at an overland event, or it was at one of the adventure sort of meets. And I remember you had a very focused and almost business-like approach and attitude towards your trip and you as a brand and where you were going, and I remember thinking to myself, shit, that's actually what we are, isn't it? I didn't think of myself as a brand at all at this point. And I remember talking to you, and you had said, you know, when you were approaching people for your world trip, you know, you're selling the brand, you're selling the package and what you can provide for the company in return for whatever it was they were going to give you. And I remember thinking, shit, I didn't think of any of that. I didn't think of any of that at all. And you're like, it's plain as day, isn't it? And so that in turn is advice that I give anyone that asks me, how can I do what you've done? You know, for me, I'm like, well, if you take the mental side of it out of it, because you'll only do it if you have the mentality to do it. It's an easy thing to do. You're just sat on a motorbike and you're riding. But mentally, you've got to just keep going, haven't you? And whatever it throws at you along the way, you just keep going. And
Exactly.
I think any bike, I've always said this, any bike will go around the world, but not any rider will. And obviously that is the difference, isn't it? But that's what I say to people is, you know, if you want to sort of have the backing of other brands or companies, if you want to go down the sponsorship route, and again, there's plus and minuses for that, as we both know, then you certainly have to create yourself a brand and almost like a business plan for each of those companies who want to come on board.
100%, and that I get that all the time, obviously, especially with my reputation with Triumph and that, and you know, people do see that as, like you say, positive or a negative, and people bring you down for it as well. You know, they think, well, you know, you're back because of that. They do, but then I always sort of say on the flip side, you know, I mean, when I was planning the trip, when I was 21 years old, I left at 22. It took me a year to plan. So I always say, just picture yourself when you were 21. When you were a 21-year-old, you're more than like, well, I was too before I started planning the trip. You know, you're down at the pub, you're drinking, you're flirting with ladies, you're doing what you do, you know. Whereas a 21-year-old, I had to go and sit in a board meeting with Triumph Motorcycle. They weren't going to just sit there and just lend me a bike. They never gave me the bike. You know, so imagine a 21-year-old sitting there with a board meeting of about 12 people, Nick Law himself, the directors, the managers, and you're there betraying yourself, saying, I'm going to go around the world. Has anyone done it before? Well, not really. Well, there's other people, but not this official record. And I'm going to do another record, and I'm going to go solo, and I'm going to go. And they're thinking, are we going to trust this 21-year-old to represent our name. He goes out there and pops realies and gets drunk and whoa, and does a tweet, a young person sort of thing to do. Our name is going to be everywhere. Do you know how much convincing that took? My gosh. But literally, like you say, I had to really sort of rein it in. I even had to go through, back when I think it was like MySpace and like when Facebook was older, I had to break down all like the weekend party pictures and all that sort of
Did
stuff.
You had to totally sanitize your whole online presence.
Yeah, that was one of the little things because I've said to them, well, they're going to search me up. And that's stuff. If they sit there and they see that every weekend you're on, you had to play that game. And also, I also say to people, and I know, well, this is probably a perfect time, but I mean, like people sometimes think that like my road trip has been paid for by far.
Yeah.
I can tell you now 100% they didn't pay a dime. Yeah. They lent me the bike, they paid for the servicing. But literally how I paid for it was through credit cards.
Yeah.
I got 7 credit cards and I then I maxed them out and I had a few red letters come in the post. And then at the end of the trip, I got what I call a student loan and paid them all off. So essentially it's just a student loan, but a student of life. So.
Yeah, I was amazed at that as well because I'd assumed because you had the back in a Triumph and were you not GoPro athlete as well? Like GoPro gave you the cameras and stuff as well.
Yeah,
I had it. I just assumed that, like you were swimming in cash for this trip and you had all the back in and you had people doing all your filming and your social media. No, it was just you, wasn't it? It was totally you.
Honest to God, it was because if I always try and tell people, like I look at now, so say for instance, like a character, I look at like Itchy Boots. She is raking in. I've seen some of the numbers and she's but then I see it and I look at it and I think, well, back then, again, there wasn't as many of these figures or these people going out there doing these massive things. So when I went to a company, like I did go to GoPro, I went to GoPro HQ, I went to the big bosses and they said, we'll give you free cameras. And they gave me literally they saved me hundreds of pounds. I mean, they gave me a big, massive bag of batteries. They said, you're going to need all this, you're going to need all that. You want content. They featured all my content, some of the books and the tutorials they released and all that stuff. But it wasn't a penny. GoPro didn't send a penny. But I thought back then, which wasn't actually a thing then, was like this influencer head. I thought, right, okay, if I, like you say, represent yourself as a brand, put yourself out there, make yourself look like this, and brands are going to go, I want this guy. And in the hope that they'll go, I'll help pay for his fuel and his beers and all this stuff. It didn't actually work, but that's okay.
But did you? That's an experience. Did you end up having people like contacting you going, because I did, I had people contacting me going, how can we send you a tank of fuel? Like, what's your PayPal address? Blah, 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 blah. There weren't things like, in those days, I don't think there was a GoFundMe then. There was none of that sort of stuff. I think there was PayPal. Crowdfunding, I think, had just started because I ended up doing did I do a crowd? No, I said to people, right, I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna do a DVD about the trip. So that's definitely going to happen. If you want to pre-order it, you can buy it now for this price. I think the DVD was something like 20 quid. The book was a tenner, I think. And and I was like, you can do that now. And because I think I got to Australia and I'd basically run out of money. And I was like, right, okay, well, folks, hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great, but I'm gonna have to turn around now and head back. And people were just like, no, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. So I set myself like a target that I had to reach within, I think the week it was or something. And literally within like 24 hours, I'd hit the target. And I was like, holy shit, that's phenomenal. Like it raised like $8,000 in the space of a day. I was like, right, okay, off we go then. It was incredible.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I mean, that's the thing. There is people out there to give a helping hand in those situations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%. I had the same situation. I think near the end of the trip, I ran out of cash as well. Yeah. And there's always a fun fact, actually. I think even, which podcast did I listen to? Probably a year ago. My mate said, you should call in and say, I think it was Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was talking about Snicker bars. And it can't be healthy to live off Snicker bars. Fun fact, a week of my trip, near the end of my trip, because there was always, with my world trip, there was also the capital cities where I was only going to capital cities. I actually ended up running out of cash and I lived off Snicker bars for a week. So literally in the morning, I had a Snickers bar because you fill up the bike at the gas station, grab a Snickers bar. Usually those duo ones,
Yep.
and you can have one for breakfast and one for lunch.
Bloody hell.
Oh, yeah. I honestly, a whole week until the point. But then, like you say, the generosity of people until the point where I got to Athens, Greece. And then the Triumph guys in Athens, they said, look, we've got a good crowd. We need you to do a tour. And I was like, okay. So I put a calculator in it, and they put me up. Literally,
is there a buffet?
Yeah, pretty much. Have you seen the Greeks? My gosh. And literally, like, they put me up in like a 5-star hotel in Athens. They said there's going to be about 200 people you can talk to the dealership. Wow. And then literally we'll put on a Greek feast. At that time, I've had like so many Snickers, I'm sticking out, and literally got to the point and they had, like you say, a buffet, but in a small little Athens cave. And they had a big long feast of food and just all sorts of Greek food came out, and it was just like, by the end of it, just Monty Python, whiff off you, no more. But again, once you reach that point, and those are the moments, I think, like you just said, you remember that, I remember that. Those are the points which everyone will have their own stories like that, one way or another.
Obviously, we'll go through people's questions after this, because obviously there's a lot of questions from people. And I don't know if anyone's asked this yet, but I'm going to ask it now. For you, I know probably what the biggest impact on me as a person was from my trip, but what about for you? What do you think has been the biggest impact on you from not only just from the global trip, from the world trip?
Yeah, from the world trip. The biggest impact for me is more realizing, especially from a younger point of view, again, it's from younger eyes, is people from around the world. So, i.e., people in different cultures. And that really made me wake up. So, for an example, little kids in Laos. When you're a young person and you see little kids, little kids, could be your sister or your brother, your siblings, and they're playing on the streets with a hay football or something, and they've got a bigger smile than kids I've seen in the Tesco's are not getting their flavour of ice cream. And it's just as everyone is you and I, and that's the thing, like Colombia is not as dangerous as what people think, it's far from it. And that's the thing. The biggest take for me is don't listen to the media. Just don't
100%. 100%. Yeah, totally.
And even other people's views. It's see it with your own eyes and have your own experience, because, like Bruce, you and I could ride down the same road, I feel. We could go to the same country and go to the same thing, but we'll have two different experiences.
Totally. Yeah. Depends on the mood you're in at the time, doesn't it? It depends on your previous experience. It depends on so much, for sure. I'm with you on that. Like, that was the overwhelming thing for me, that the impact on me was that we're all the same. As a species, we are all the same. It makes no difference what language you speak, what faith or religion you follow, what colour you are. It makes no difference. Essentially, everybody's decent, aren't they? Everyone just wants to look after their family, and they will help if they can help.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It makes the world, you end up seeing, the world is huge. You end up realizing how big the world is. But then you also realize how small the world is, as in the community of humans. The world itself, as in Mother Nature, it's massive. And it's far too vast. You could live for 1,000 years and still not see every part of the world. But as us as humans, we can see, we're such a small unit, and it's like, that just blew me away. That's big. That's why I like, to be honest, like the best countries I visited was all the third world countries, all the non-Western world countries. And the worst country, the world trip for me was all the Western countries. I like, Australia and New Zealand was not my cup of tea. I was like, take me back to Asia, take me back to America, take me back to Africa.
It comes as a bit of a shock, doesn't it? When you move from, like, I remember coming from Australia across to Chile, and Santiago is fine, isn't it? Santiago's a very sort of first world city, and then you get on the road, and once you head out, especially once you cross into Peru, when you get up in the mountains in some of the parts of Peru, you're just like, oh wow, this is, it's as you said, it's like Laos, isn't it? Like I remember being in Laos and thinking, this is probably some of the most basic some of the most basic living standards I think I've been experienced to, and the people literally had nothing. Up in Ho Chi Minh, they live in whatever it is that they build themselves. There's no road. Well, there was no road there at the time. They sort of cleared, but they hadn't started building the road yet, and people were happy, as you said. People were just happy, weren't they? The kids were out playing in the muck and just doing their thing.
100%. They're just, and that's what you realize. You realize the smiles, and it's all genuine, and it's all, and especially back then. I mean, it's funny you talk about like the roads. Like I now know some of the roads, like what we would have ridden back then in Patagonia, like Route 40. It's all gravel and those heavy side winds. Whereas now, right next, I saw them building a tarmac, and I know now some of the tours that we run on Globebusters is literally tarmac road now. So you're now on the tarmac, so you don't have that challenge of loose gravel and side winds. It's like you're just wearing one side of your tire.
It's all the way.
It's just different challenges and different aspects of that as well. Which 100%.
I remember on my trip just getting to certain places and going, I'm on a road, and as you said, I'd look to the side and there'd be like a track, and I would just see something, and I'd be like, I've seen that in someone's picture before, and you're like, I see what you've done. You just pushed your bike onto the dirt track next to the road. I get it. Cool.
100%. It's like, I've seen. We've just gone over that one.
Get the gram, get the picture. Job done. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. So, I mean, we've not spoken too much about the world trip, but we can cover that in questions and stuff. Loads of people have got questions about it. So, after the world trip, where did life take you after that?
It was sort of on a high, really. I mean, it was you come back and you're like this superstar, youngest person sort of thing. So it was full on. It was really full on. It was literally like a movie set for me, to be honest. When I look back, obviously, well, magazines obviously back then were very popular. So every magazine interview. Photos, interviews, talks at almost all the dealerships. Triumph got me to go around all the dealerships in the UK, filming, production. Obviously, then Triumph. The only time Triumph did pay me to go overseas was when I did a filming shoot for them. I rode from New York to Los Angeles on at the time, the new Explorer. So they were kind of like, they're sitting there probably in their boardroom. Right, we've got a new bike coming out, the Explorer back in the day. We need to get it shot in December in America. And obviously, if people are listening, obviously know that America in December is, yay high snow and very cold. Oh, who do we send out there? Oh, let's send Rhys. Yeah, he's just
He'll do it.
He'll do it. So obviously I did, yeah. So I had to write a prototype Explorer. Even though it said it had heated seat and heated grips, it didn't have any of that.
No.
Because it was a prototype. It was literally a prototype. Like literally, it was good. Went across the States, did the filming, then met the Triumph film crew at points, and they took photos and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, like I said, that's the best way to describe it. It was like a big movie set. Went to all the press launches. It was brilliant. And then obviously like all things, it just sort of went, and then obviously there's got to be a up, there's got to be a down, and then it just fizzled out a little bit, and then it was like everyone's then waiting. Because at that time, it was like, again, we're not to the stage that we are now, where there's lots of characters, lots of travel, and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, what's Rhys going to do next? And it was kind of like, I've got my 30 grand bill to pay.
Yeah.
I can't afford to go around the world again. So then,
back to work.
Yeah, pretty much. And then literally, obviously back in the day, I mean, I was a professional bartender, did the whole flaring and cocktail mixologist. I got offered to work in Vegas and that sort of stuff. So I ended up packing it all in and then moving back to New Zealand, and then literally lived a very substantial life. I mean, literally just like B&Q, B&Q?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so a New Zealand equivalent of B&Q called Mitre 10. So I worked with them. I worked there just at the till. I then worked at Flight Centre for a bit behind an office desk. I almost wanted to hang myself behind the desk.
Oh, God, yeah, that must have been purgatory for you.
Yeah, yeah. Literally, it was good at first. I could sell travel like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Talk about any country in every country, but then sitting there 9 to 5 in a suit and a thing and answering the phone and couldn't do it. So yeah. So then did that, and then COVID hit. So that's sort of the period. But squeezed in very small. But yeah, literally went from a high to a incredibly low.
See, well, I sort of had that. I sort of had that as soon as I finished the trip. I didn't have any sort of fanfare when I finished. It was just finished, and then it was like, okay. I think I finished on something like a Friday or Saturday, and on a Monday I was back in the old bill. It was just like, no, I think I had a week. I had a week basically sat at my girlfriend's flat for a week, just sort of like, shit, what just happened? You know, just that period when you're going, was that real? Is this real? What the fuck's happening here then? And then I was just back into normal life again, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really weird.
You didn't feel any lows or anything like that? You didn't feel
massively. Yeah, I got the post-trip blues massively for probably a good 8 months to a year. I really struggled, to be perfectly honest with you, being back. I mean, I think during that time, when I got back, it turns out I developed a heart condition while I was away. I got dengue fever at one point, and the doctors still don't know if that instigated. I ended up with like an erratic heartbeat. So I had to basically be defibbed to restart the heart and get it back in a normal rhythm. So they put you on like beta blockers and blood thinners, and those beta blockers were horrible. They really put you in a downer, and I was in a downer anyway because I had the post-trip blues, and I had like 8 months, maybe 10 months of just, it was fucking horrible. I hated it. So you sort of see your way through that, and then fine. Then it was like, right, what do you do next then? So it's like life goes on.
I know, next. It's like, but that's the thing. I mean, when I moved back to New Zealand 4 years ago, because that's where I grew up, hence the weird accent. But like literally 4 years ago, when I moved back to New Zealand after doing road trip, then doing all these things, and then doing all the bike stuff, and then went back. And I mean, I love my mates if they're listening, but I mean, literally, like, you realize people, like, you do something really different and obscure and out there, and you go and travel and see the world. You do something different, and you come back home, not much has changed.
Oh,
it's kind of stayed the same, and you realize that you've changed. It's nothing bad with them or with anything, but you realize you've changed as a person. You've changed. Yeah, and that's why I'm back here in England now, because literally struggled being back in New Zealand doing like I said, the office job and the normal B&Q job, and then it was just like, I need more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that you know the other people's lives are any less, is it? Or less meaningful. It's just that you change. You change when you travel. You totally change. You change. And it really got to me in the old bill. In the old bill, we all stand around and we all moan. Especially the role I had in diplomatic, where you're just a security guard with a gun. You know, you stood on a post for 2 hours, and you know, you stood with your oppo, and you just stand and you chat and you moan about life, you moan about the public, you moan about the senior management, you moan about politics. You just moan. That's what you do.
Moan,
you just moan. And I found when I came back, I stepped back into that role, and as exactly what you just said, everyone is moaning about the same things, and life doesn't feel like it's moved on for them. Whereas you have totally changed, haven't you? Like my whole mindset, attitude, everything had changed.
100%. Like even they would like anyone would change. Like if they're doing something, completely out of different or out of their normal daily routine, they're changing themselves, and that's what happens. And that's why they usually say, you know, friends come and go. I find, because they say because each person changes. You know, if you meet someone in your life, it doesn't have to be travel. You meet someone in a relationship, and next week your path goes down a different road, and so you're changing, and obviously they're going this way, the same way that the road was going, so to speak, but you've ended up meeting someone, say, and you end up going this way, and the next minute you completely change. So it's not right or wrong. It's just you change, and you end up realizing that big time when you come back, and you just, the biggest culture shock for me was going back home to New Zealand. That was
to the old life. Yeah.
It was not going in shitty huts of China or sleeping on a bike in Mexico or anything like that, or eating crappy food in Kazakhstan. It wasn't any of that. It was literally the biggest shock was going back to it.
Yeah, and I feel like nobody really spoke about that. I don't remember anyone speaking about that when I was doing the circuit before I went. I was going to like all the Horizons Unlimited meets and all the shows. You'd go and chat with people. I don't remember anyone mentioning like Poststrip blues and what life would be like when you come back, apart from one guy, this chap called Graham, who did a series called Brain Rotting. He was traveling the Americas on a motorbike, and he did an amazing series on YouTube called Brain Rotting. I think it's been taken down now because I think he was hoping to get a TV deal, so he took it all down. And it doesn't look like it happened. It was fantastic. It was really, really good. But I remember meeting him for a beer before I went, and he was the only one that said to me, just be wary of what life will be like when you come back, because he was fresh back and he was going through it, and he was just like, you won't be the same, you'll be totally different. Just remember, the biggest challenge is when you get home. I remember thinking, don't be daft, I'm going around the world on a sports bike. What can be more challenging than that? No, he was right, he was totally right.
He was right.
So
you do get that.
Okay, then. So for you, then, so you've moved back to the UK from New Zealand. Where's life taking you now? Then, what you doing with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I needed to come. I needed to come back. I needed to be in the scene, so to speak. I need to be touching the bikes. I need to be planning travels. I need to be doing all of that. And so obviously, my old man Kevin Sanders, and Julia, my stepmom, they're obviously world record holders as well. They run Globebusters, so I started kind of come back and thought, well, okay, let's sort of get in the scene of that, because I think after reaching, still only 31, but obviously toured a little bit more to when I finished the trip at 5, and obviously realised that actually obviously with that whole world trip, let's move on to the next thing, which is I've inspired people to travel. There's 4 young people plus Ben King, obviously on the outskirts, doing what he needs to do if he can make it. And then obviously they've done the inspiration. It's now time to almost like share the knowledge and help. So there's the inspiration, and now it's the taking with people. And that's the thing. So now it's like, well, how do I keep doing it? It's like, well, take people on tours and utilize that. So now obviously it's doing the Globebuster stuff, and then still doing the influencer stuff. I say that because obviously, like I said, I never did it. I never thought it was a thing until a few years ago.
Do you find yourself like I don't know why, but when someone goes, "Oh, you're an influencer," I sort of go, "Ugh," but 100%. We are. We are totally though. You are, aren't you? And you're just like, yeah, I know, but I just don't want to be one of those influencers. Do you know what I mean? That's just. I feel like that we've got more. This is going to sound really bad, and I don't mean it to sound bad, but I feel like we've got more credibility because we've done stuff. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's like don't tag me with that name, but then we are, I suppose, totally we are.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, literally, like I said, it was what we were doing in the past. It was that title, so to speak. It wasn't a title at the time, as now it is. So yeah, I mean that's still a thing. But I mean, again, I still haven't mastered how these influencers get paid.
Oh mate, no.
I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works. I mean, like, so, I sit there and, I can wear a Scotch shirt because obviously they give me a heck of a lot of free stuff, but they never open their wallet.
No, no, never. You always get a T-shirt or a sticker, don't you? I've sent you some stickers and a T-shirt. Thanks very much. How am I going to pay the mortgage this month?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't need to buy any clothes. That's brilliant, but
Oh, do you get it? I get emails from companies all the time that want to work together, and they're just like, "Oh no, we can't afford to pay anything, but we can give you this and we can give you that." And I'm just like, that's great, but I don't really know what that adds to me, like to my brand, and I don't really know what my community would get from it. And B, just I've got bills to pay. It's like
Exactly.
I'd rather spend my time on content that I know is going to at least get some views and generate a little bit of income. So
Well, that's the thing, because I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to be realistic. You got to pay your bills, and you got to pay to travel. You got to put fuel. I mean, shit, the cost of fuel now. You got to. So and that's the thing, but that's not my full-time thing. Influencing. That's why I always say influencing. I'm exactly like you. I cringe at it, so I get influenced.
Maybe we should take it back, mate. Maybe we should take the influencer term back. We are the proper influencers. And call the other one something else.
Yeah, something else. Yeah, let's just call ourselves the OG or something. The original. I don't know.
So you're now doing tours with Globebusters then?
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, obviously that's what I just came back from Iceland. And then literally next week week and a half, and then after we're doing a Moroccan tour. So then off to Morocco.
Wow.
So I mean, so it's really that's the UK all the way down, and you get all the way to Western Sahara and then back up.
Yeah.
And then
are you going into Western Sahara?
Not this time, I don't think. Usually we do, but then obviously going all the way around. So, but I mean, at the moment, I think these last two trips, I'm the support driver. I'm in the van, so for the tours they have sort of like the leader, then the crew. You don't travel like a bus tour, You ride your own ride. There's nothing worse than having a tour. I think when you just sort of but hey, I'm not complaining because I still have a love affair. I have a secret love affair of four wheels as well as two wheels. So those big 4-wheel drives, Land Rovers, van life thing, happy days. I'm in my dreamland sort of thing.
I have the wanderlust. It's come back with a vengeance. For a few years after I came back, people would say to me, "What's next? Where you go next?" And I was just like, "Do you know, I've done it." I in my head I was like, I've done it. I fulfilled. I did my live stream. I fulfilled the promise that I made my mom. I'm done. So I'm okay now. Let's just crack on with life. But the last, do you know what? I think it is since lockdown. Like since we got locked down again, and I couldn't travel. Now I'm like, fuck, I need to get going. So I've just done a couple of little tours in the UK, Wales, and up to Scotland. Yeah, and it is totally lit the fire. I'm just like, I did one to Romania actually in May. So I rode by myself down to Slovenia and then met one of my sponsors down there. And then from there, we went up to Romania. But just those 3 days, just me, myself, working my way through Europe, it was like, oh, I've missed this. I've really missed. Because normally I've got a squad of people with me on a tour. And I was just like, this is really nice. Just being by yourself and going where the wind takes you. Like, I've missed it. Yeah.
No, that's what I've noticed actually. Like you said, the people have got that bug. They've been locked down so much.
Yeah.
And then they literally just they want to get free, and they want to I think at the moment there's a Globebusters tour in Africa going Nairobi to Cape Town for 5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful. All the way there, then you go across to Namibia and then south. And literally that tour there, I remember we do like a pre-expedition meeting, because these are long tours. You need to meet them and talk about visas and borders and all that sort of stuff with them all. And literally, I think I remember that what was it? Half the customers there were either have already been to South Africa, were South Africa, got married or worked in already done a trip in South Africa. So then it's like, well, why are you doing this trip then?
Yeah.
Well, it was Globebusters' first big expedition trip since lockdown. And why not? Because I've been locked up for like 2 years. So,
wow.
So listen, like one guy said, it's my third choice, but it's the first one. So heck, why not? And it was just like, people are so hungry for it. Like you said, they end up getting the bite. And they're like, you know what? I'm not being locked up in my house anymore. I am getting out there and making you survive. Because as we've noticed, 2 years can go like that.
That's 2 years of our lives that is effectively just in the blink of an eye. You know, you almost brush over it, don't you? Well, nothing happened, so we'll just brush over that. It's crazy. I've seen that. Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, how was the electric bike? I saw that on the on your thing, and I was quite intrigued with that because I'm really intrigued with the electric sort of motorcycle.
The UK ride, the round the UK one. Yeah. It was hard. It was really, really hard. Physically and mentally, I don't really know why, because it didn't take that much longer than the 125 took. And I stopped loads. Like, I was stopping every sort of 45 to 60, 65 miles. I was stopping to charge again. So I'd have to stop for anywhere from 15 to 40 odd minutes, depending on what the charger was and temperature and stuff. So I was getting a lot more rest than I normally do. Like normally, I literally I don't stop on those rides. I would sleep at the side of the bike as and when I needed sleep. So you'd get a 10, 15 minute power kip, or you might stop for 2 hours if you needed 2 hours. Yes. So with the electric bike, I was getting a lot more little power naps. But by day 3, I remember I tell you when it was. I was coming back from John O'Groats, and I was north of Inverness, and it was in the middle of the night. I stopped at services, expecting the services to be open so that I could get a coffee. But the shop was shut and the charger was open. So I just plugged the bike in to charge it up, and I sat on the ground and fell asleep. But when I woke up, I was absolutely frozen. And I'd numb legs. I couldn't stand up, and I was like hallucinating. I thought all my mates were up there with me. I ended up having to crawl around the car park on my hands and my knees, with dead legs, till I could get blood in my legs. And then eventually got back on the bike and was like, this is a bit stupid, this. You need a coffee and something warm to eat very quickly. So I got to Inverness and sort of thawed out and was just like, right, the next opportunity to take a decent break, we're taking a decent break. So I think I rode down to north of Perth. I got to north of Perth and then I think I stopped at a petrol station there, and I woke up. I literally sat on one of their benches, and I woke up 2.5 hours later. It was like it was tough.
The electric bikes is just charge and sleep.
That one was, I've got Alec from English Electric Motorcycles. He's coming on the podcast soon, actually, to chat through it all, because there's lots of learning points for them and for me that, they want to chat about stuff and I want to chat about stuff as well. I was really surprised because Energica just launched a new bike, a new one called the Xperia, which is like their touring electric bike. And it's really good. I did a review on it. It's got double the range that the Rebelli has, the one that I took on the UK ride. And I just assumed that they would want to promote the Energica through this trip, because no one's ever done it before. And it was like, well, surely that's the perfect vehicle for a touring bike to go around the UK as quick as you can. But they didn't. They didn't seem to prioritise it. And they were just like, no, we haven't got any bikes available. So Alec, he's not Energica, he's English Electric. He was like, well, we can give you a Rebelli, or you can have any of the bikes that we have here. And I just thought, well, I'll take the Rebelli because it's got the fastest charge and it has the second biggest range out of a lot of them. So I took that. But it was, if I'd taken the Xperia, well, rather than getting sort of 40 to 60 miles, I would have been getting 80 to 100 miles, maybe a little bit more. And I think it just would have transformed the whole thing. It wouldn't have been, I don't think it would have been as almost farcical looking on social media. I'm charging again. I'm charging again.
I know. Well, it's just a big question mark, obviously, for the next sort of the what's going to be ahead kind of thing, and that's especially with the long way up thingy that happened with the Harley, and it's an interesting topic, and I feel it's always keeping a close eye on it.
And it's the infrastructure. The infrastructure is good. There's pretty much nowhere really where there isn't a charger. You're always within, I would say, 25 to 30 miles, 25 to 40 miles of some chargers, wherever you go in the country. And some places it's a lot closer. But what I did notice was it's not set up for motorbikes. You know, they're set up for you to be in a car, sat in your car. Whereas for me, for me, if it's pissing with rain, well, I'm stood in the car park like that. You know, I get wet then. There's no toilets. There's nothing.
Well, so long you don't do. I don't know. See, whoever has been to Iceland. Iceland's very green, and they've got lots of charging points over there. Heck of a lot.
Have they?
Yeah, because they're so cheap, and obviously they've got like free power because it's all cheap.
Iceland on electric.
Yeah, Iceland on electric. I tell you now, but literally there was I'm gonna call him Bob. Okay, there was one of the customers, and he rolled up to one of the gas stations. Okay, one of like the main, they're called N1s over there, and it was all the pumps lined up, a whole load of them. And he rolls up and he's there and he's fiddling when he can't pay and he's got the hose and he's thinking, what? And then the tour guide comes up and he's like, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing, Bob? You know,
don't worry about swearing on this, mate. It's no problem.
And he's like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to figure it. He's like, this is all for electric cars. He's trying to put an electric in a GS.
No! Jesus!
But it literally looks like a normal petrol station. It was like all lined up. And when I rolled up, I was like, oh, they look a bit weird, but they look like actual petrol stations. But the actual petrol was hidden behind it. And he just rolled up. Machine.
That could have got interesting.
And he's like, that's a bit weird, wasn't it? And he's thinking, where do I... He's trying to pay it. He's then thinking, what do I do? I've got a full tank. There is no full tank.
Trying to put 120 kilowatts straight into a gas tank.
Inside your tank. My gosh, away it goes. Don't recommend that one.
No, definitely. That's interesting. I had no idea the infrastructure was so big over in Iceland. Oh, that's setting.
Yeah. I mean, there is you're going to need something a bit more than 40 to
miles.
Because there's some points, especially in the north and the east, where it's literally like isolated. I mean, there's some points where it's like it's pushed to shove with fuel. So let alone electric. But they're building. I mean, because they're so green. Literally, they have like recycling bins. They have, you can drink the water. They don't like you buying bottles of water. They like to buy you one, and you just top up from the tap. It's all free.
Wow.
Water's free there because the amount of waterfalls they have. And they're all geothermal and all that sort of stuff. So they're very, very, very good. Yeah,
it's a beautiful place, isn't it? I think it's one of those places where, I've only been there once, but I remember going and just thinking, oh, I think I could live here. But then the other part of you goes, what's it like the other part? The other part of the year.
I was exactly the same. The sun's shining, and I think, Jesus, it's not bad. I'd love to live here. And then, those winters.
Yeah. It's called Iceland for a reason.
Yeah. When you see the big snow truck parked up, they're sitting there and they're big, massive things like that. No, I love it though.
Right, dude, how about we move on to how long have you got, by the way? I should have asked this right at the start.
No, it's as long as you got. I'm just gonna refresh my thing. If you give me
cool.
30
feel free. Time for a quick shout out to this week's sponsors, who are Innov. Now, Innov specialise in motorcycle dashcam systems. You'll probably seen the vids on my channel. They've got the single camera, the C5. They've got dual camera, which are the K series, the K3 and the K5. K3's 1080, K5's 4K front, 1080 rear. Both the K3 and K5 have an external mic, which you can even wire up into your helmet and vlog with if you want. If you look at my California Superbike School Day vids, the onboard audio is all via the Innov K5 system. They've also got GPS tracking. They've got an external remote so you can lock footage as you go. They'll do that automatically anyway, should they detect any sudden movement. They've got parking modes on them, so when that's activated, even when your bike is left unattended and switched off, say you're a bike calf or park it up in a town or something like that, if the bike moves at all, then it'll automatically kick in and it'll start recording. So hopefully you'll get that car that hits your bike or anyone that does anything to your bike. As long as they're in front of those cameras, you'll capture them. Great system, folks. Invaluable in terms of any accidents for insurance, because the first thing your insurance is going to ask is there CCTV or witnesses? And if you have one of these in-off systems fitted, then you're covered. Providing you're in the right, you're totally covered. Well worth getting, folks. Head to the link down below. I've got the in-off UK website link down below. So if you're listening to the show notes, check that out. If you're watching the vid, have a look in the description. It is a referral link that just lets in-off know you've come from me, which helps me massively in terms of the sponsorship. It shows them they're getting bang for their buck. If you use the code TEAPOT, TEAPOT, then you'll get, I think it's 5% off any of the in-off cameras. And if you use the link to the Techologic website, they're the one that do like the DC1 and XV1 helmet cameras. If you use the code TEAPOT, you'll get 5% off them as well. So a huge thank you to Innov for all their support. We are also sponsored by Ultimate Add-ons. Ultimate Add-ons, they specialize in mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for bikes, for push bikes, that sort of stuff. They provide dustproof, drop-proof, really rugged cases for your phones, as well as a multitude of different mounting solutions for those phone cases and action cameras. Things like GoPros, DJIs, all that sort of stuff, Insta360s. Great bits of kit, They're great bits of kit, folks. Even when your phone is inside one of these cases, you can still use the phone, you can still use the cameras, obviously as long as you keep the lens and everything clean. Great things, folks. I have never had any issues with vibration affecting my phone's camera when I use the Ultimate Add-on systems. I use the Helix strap mount. It's basically like a ratchet strap, really easy to fit. I can fit it to almost any bike I've ever taken out for a review. Great bits of kit. If you head to ultimateaddons.com and if you use the code TeapotOne10, so TeapotOne with the number 10 at the end, then you will get 10% off their range. Massive thanks to Ultimate Add-ons.
So I'm drinking my New Zealand. Wine.
Good lad.
A little bit from home, obviously.
That's it. Fly the flag.
Yeah, exactly. Fly the flag as best as I can.
So am I. Look, I've got Brewdog.
Yeah, there you go. You're flying the flag.
Right, so we'll start working our way through questions then. So we'll head to Patreon first, the clan, which is patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Lee Vigor. I think you know Lee, haven't you? You've worked with Lee at Triumph.
Yes,
hello to both. Hope you're well. Having worked and ridden with Rhys, I know he has some amazing stories about his adventures. But what was the most amazing experience of kindness you've both experienced on your travels?
Geez, the way sort of doesn't. Everyone's sort of nice. Do you have one that pops out in your head?
I mean, there were so many, but one that really sticks out was an Aussie chap called Pete who lives in Japan with his Japanese wife and kids, and I happened to crash my bike one day when I was out in the mountains with some friends of his, and I smashed the bike up good and proper. It's all on YouTube. And Pete came to my rescue, and he came, picked me and the bike up, put the bike in the back of his van, and he said, "Don't worry about it. We'll get this all fixed up." And he took me back to his house, and I lived with him and his family for 3 to 4 weeks, and he literally, as well as his family life and his job, he walked me through getting all the parts that I needed, because I didn't have and still don't have a clue about mechanics on a bike. I can just about do the chain. I don't even have that anymore on the GS. And he told me what parts to buy, and he found the parts for me, and then he helped me basically dismantle the bike and then rebuild it. He basically rebuilt it. So it was just, I learned a lot of things from Pete. It's just his openness to anybody, and things like when we were out driving in his truck, going to get parts and going from places to places. If he ever saw anyone stopped at the side of the road, whether it's on a bike, in a car, or truck, he stopped And he'd get out and he'd be like, "Oh, mate, how you doing? You know, everything okay?" Obviously in Japanese, you spoke fluent Japanese. And I just remember thinking, this geezer's such a nice bloke. You know, he's a really, really nice fella. And so is his whole family. So it's something I sort of try to do myself now, you know, make sure people are all right at the side of the road, and I just offer help whenever you think someone needs it.
That's brilliant. Well, hats off to him, mate. I'm cheers to him. He's
Cheers, Pete.
But
what about yourself?
Yeah, to be honest, I had so many people, even from the smallest of things to literally, I mean, I had a random guy in Nicaragua ride with me, a bunch of Triumph guys back in then, and a Nicaragua guy, he literally he paid for my tank of fuel, and he didn't know a word of English, didn't know anything from there to even just the random Argentinian trucker. And it's a sin, I don't know their name, I don't remember their names, but like the Argentinian trucker, I ran out of fuel on the route of 40 on the way down to El Calafate. Mm-hmm. It was 14 miles short of El Calafate. Well, before that, I actually rolled up to the gas station, but they had no fuel. And I never remembered overtaking a tanker. And then I was trying to say, is there a tanker from the south? And I just want to have a siesta. And they didn't.
Yeah. Mañana.
And I was like, well, if I stay here and just wait for fuel or try to get to El Calafate. And I was like, if I go sit here, 20, 30 miles an hour, just streamlined it. Just mate, and I didn't. I was 14 miles short. That was bad maths out of me. And literally, I ended up, and there was no one at that time on those open plains down there, and I had to push the bike 4 miles till someone.
Jesus Christ!
I literally pushed it 4 miles. So
that's a big bike to be pushing.
Yeah, I mean,
off road as well.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's why that's why I always tell people travel light now, because I did travel pretty light compared to some people, and I'm just like, because literally when I was down here, I was like, down here, and then push it until a trucker came, and then he finally pulled up, and then he was carrying cars, and then we moved all the cars to the shunt. And then we him and his mate and me, lifted the bike and then put it into the slot cars. And then he took me to El Calafate, and then
jeez,
have to push. Because I said, I thought, well, I either stay here or I just get on with it and just make my way to El Calafate, and then 4 miles later I got picked up. So then from courtesy from that man, I mean, probably won't be listening to this, but he might be. Who knows?
You never know, mate. Do you? You never know the reach.
The little trucker in Argentina. Who knows? But yeah, I had so many little stories like that. And I could be here all night just sharing lots and lots of news stories.
That goes from what we said, wasn't it? Was that the overwhelming lesson you learn from overland travel is that people are nice, people are good.
100%.
Because there is no end of kindness stories like that, Lee. Honestly, it's like anyone that's not travelled doesn't really compute any of that, do they? You know, it's like
no, 100%. They're not exposed to different cultures or lives or languages or anything like that. That's the thing.
And you know, when you give a presentation, you give a talk about your travels and stuff, and you talk about just random strangers coming up and offering you like a place for the night, come home with me and do blah, 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 blah. And you say, oh yeah, I followed these. Like for me, I remember in Russia, I remember following a geezer from a petrol station who didn't speak any English. I followed him into the woods, like literally into the woods in Russia, to like a wooden shack with the smoke coming out the chimney going in, and his missus is in there and she doesn't speak English, and I spent the night, and they fed me, and I slept on a bench in their hut, and in the morning it was bye bye ta-da. I don't speak Russian, they don't speak English, but you get by, don't you? But you give stories like that, and people just look at you in like an abject horror. It's like, but they could have killed you. They could have done anything. Like, they won't. They could have, but they wouldn't. Like, most people are decent. You just got to go with it.
I am honestly. Everyone just has that helping hand, especially out there. I mean, that's the I got to tell one of the best stories ever of my trip. I think is one of the hardest days of my trip. And out of the hardest day came probably the best night ever. I mean, in Chile and Argentina, there's Carretel Austral. then there's a big lake called Catatelstone. You go around the big lake. I said, like, you go over. And I didn't see the weather and went over, and there's a big weather storm. There was landslides, trees falling over, mud slabs, cliff drops, all sorts. It was one of the hardest days. I got halfway through and thought, if I keep going, I'm going to die, because it's just thunder, rain. I went through some mud holes, ran all over the place. Almost went off. I was just, I need to turn around. Did the maths. Don't have enough fuel to turn around. I need to keep on going.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going. So went up these hills and all this sort of stuff. One 4x4 was already off the cliff. It's like, geez, I get through. Finally managed to get through in the end. And then get to the small little town. I'm going like 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. This little sign on the restaurant. This old lady. She's probably, I don't know, 100 years old. She's probably, in all Jews, she's probably passed now. But she's literally old. Not a word of English, only Spanish. So I'm there. Oh, una habitación, and hugs and mud and wet. And she's, and literally she's, moto. I was like, oh. And she put the motorbike in the chicken sheds and under shelter. So all the chickens are running around. And by the morning, there's chicken shit everywhere, all in my mind. It's great fun. And this, I'd go inside their house, a little hut, literally a little house. Let it go. Spanish TV. There's just a picture of it. And she starts almost taking my gear off. Like, take my gear off. It's on the seat by the warm burner. There's me in town. She tells me where the bath. I go in. I tell you now, no 6-star hotel can ever be like that experience of that place. That shower was the best.
Yeah.
Best shower. And then I went down. She had blankets. I'd sat there. And then she sat there knitting away, watching some Spanish little crap on TV. And I just sat there with a warm drink, blanket around me. And then the kitchen. She came out with one of those chickens. And she's like, what? And I was just like, sí, gracias. Oh. Goes into the kitchen. And the next minute I'm there, and both of us, me and this old lady, is sitting there watching some crap Spanish, and I'm eating chicken and chips. The best meal ever. The best meal ever. And literally, I mean, you probably see I'm covered in ink, but I mean, like, literally, there's a part of me which is literally a bike in Catatelstone. That was one of the most memorable days. And
really,
from that lady, she was another person who gave a helping hand in no word of English, but gave me the best night.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Right. Lee's got a second question. You're stuck in a lift full of people and you really need to fart. Do you hold it or let it go?
I'm a hold it guy.
Me too. Unless if it's people I know, then they're getting it. Both barrels.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's not, then no, I'm going to hold it. Definitely.
I'm definitely going to hold it. To be fair, I'm not gassing that much. I've been gifted.
Are you not?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm full of hot air. So my wife keeps telling me. Yeah.
That's right. If you've heard my old man, he gets all the gas for me, mate.
Right, next one. Cheers for that, Lee. Thanks very much for the question, pal. Next one, Charlie Callard. Evening, gents. Hope you're both fitting well. Question 1. If you could go and meet one person from your travels, who would it be and why?
One person from our travels. Who would be one?
God, only one.
Wow. I've got one, but it's a bit humorous and a bit of a story. Since I'm single as well, it means I'm not going to have any girlfriend or wife sort of tell me off as well. Probably the Colombian woman I met, and I ended up living with her for a week.
Colombian women are something else.
My gosh, aren't they?
My God.
Western women could learn a thing or two about it. I was meant to be in Colombia for about 2.5 months. I was there for 2.5 weeks. I was there for 2.5 months. And literally I spent a whole week just with this, again, a name, a terrible name, Maria, I apologize. But eventually she's there. I would love to go meet her again because she was good fun. She had a house on a beach, literally palm trees, every doors.
Oh, wow.
Rip off eggs in the morning. Like, it was just Yeah, I didn't want to continue my world trip. I just want to stay. I just want to.
I got proposed to by a woman in Colombia. She was gorgeous. She was amazing. Yeah, I pulled into a petrol station, and there some of the petrol stations, they have the woman do all the serving of the fuel, and on this one it was like a Benny Hill sketch. One was like dolled up in like mechanic overalls, but open like that. Then there was like the school teacher one. There was all sorts. But anyway, I've gone in, and the mechanic lady came over to fill my tank, said something in Spanish, and I was like, "Oh, no hablo español, poco español." So, is it English? Do you speak English? And she said, "Oh, you're English?" And I was like, "Oh, well, Scotland. I'm from Scotland." And she was like, "Oh, Scotlandia!" And she shouted this name, like, let's just say it's I don't know, Maria, or like you just said. Let's just say it's Maria. I can't remember the lady's name, but she shouted this name, and this absolutely gorgeous, big, like 5'10", dark-haired secretary type woman came out with the short skirt, stockings, high heels, business suit, came out, and she came over like this, and this lady said something to her in Spanish, and she just looked at me and she went, "Speak to me, say something," like that. And I was like, "Hello, how are you?" And she was just like, "Oh," and she kicked her leg facing me. She just kicked her leg straight over the tank, sat on the tank, and she was just like, "Marry me, take me away," like that. So I started a bike, and we did like a quick circuit around the block, came back in, and she just loved, she loved it. She was shouting and laughing, having a great time.
Oh my God.
It was great. I remember just thinking, I don't want to carry on with my journey here. I could quite happily stay. Awesome.
I don't know if that answers the question, but there you go.
So you're going back to Colombia, and I might carry your bags for you.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
If Mrs. Teapot is listening, I'm only joking there.
Yeah, exactly.
Question 2. Takeaway, Chinese or Indian?
Chinese.
Are you?
Yeah,
I used to be Chinese, but I'm quite like an Indian these days. I quite like a little bit of spice now.
I love spice. However, I've said that so quickly. I love Chinese food. However, I've noticed Chinese takeaway is not the same as actual Chinese food in China.
Right. Oh, yeah, you went to China, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So that's the thing. And China blew me away for the food that they have, and the spice, the flavors. It's nothing compared to actually what you get down in your local Chinese store with your sweet and sour sauce and little sort of things. You don't get that. It's out of this world. So yeah, you got to select a very few, like literally wherever the local Chinese people go in your town, go where they go.
Go there,
and that's where don't have those Chinese takeaways. That's not actual Chinese. I can tell you that straight away.
When you went to China, you did the well, officially, you have to have like an official guide now, don't you, when you go in there?
Yeah.
So what most people do, folks, is you can get on various different sort of forums, Horizons Unlimited on the Hub, all these sorts of things, and you can say, right, I'm planning on being in China, these sort of dates. Is there anyone there? Because whether there's one of you or was it like you say there's 20 of you, you can split the cost of a guide between the big group. So obviously it makes sense to do it with other people. Yes. So it's cheaper then. And that's what you did, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, because that's, like you say, that's the only way to get into China, because the Chinese government works with the Chinese tourism board, and obviously the tour guides there. As you say, you need a Chinese guide, you need them in a vehicle, all the hotels need to be pre-booked, all that sort of stuff. So that, and also they need to know the exact date that you are arriving, and you need to arrive on that date at the border. So logistically, it can be a nightmare if you're just wanting just to cruise. You just don't want to, then you can't go through China. Right? But you need, if you want to go through China, it's worth it. Well, they're still shut at the moment, obviously with COVID, but pre-COVID, obviously, literally, you need a group, and that's what I did. Obviously, went with the Globebuster group to go across, and then left them, and then went on to Bangkok from there. So, nice. China, I mean, unbelievable place. I mean, it's out of screw space travel. Just go to China. It's it's like you've been dropped from Earth and then gone into a complete different planet. I mean, what's
your most memorable memory from China then?
Apart from the food, and probably the infrastructure. The infrastructure. This is back in 14. Literally, I mean, I went through a city, now a city. So because the land mass and how they do it, it's literally, I went through a town, and just imagine a Walking Dead, a zombie apocalypse film, where it's literally, I mean, the outskirts. And when I say a town, I mean, I'm talking a big city with high-rise buildings, but it's all empty. The odd crane, the odd digger drumming bass. And I'm going through the streets, and I'm just like, oh? Like what? I'm literally waiting for zombies to out at me, like, and then I asked the guy, because obviously he needed a guide. So we called him John. His name wasn't John. We just called him John. And literally asked Johnny, he goes, "Oh, that's a city that's going to be populated next month." So literally they build the city rather than build around the city. If they have the land mass, all they do is just build the city from the ground up. So they build the transport, the factories on the outside, then they build the infrastructure, the motorways, the ring roads, then the tower buildings and the apartments. And then they say to the people next to me, right, we're going to move there, because obviously it's a communist government. So then they say, right, move there, and we give you, they give them an incentive. And apparently they say, right, you go move there, da, da, da. But then they move 2 million people into a new city, and boom, they've decreased
Jesus.
that. And boom, that's the city. I swear, I was just like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, like even from the train station. I went through a train station, which is so futuristic, it's beyond belief. I mean, I looked at it and it looked like a sci-fi movie. And who was in it? Just us. It was like, where is everyone? But literally, like, it was clean, crisp, white marble, bullet trains, like anything. All the ceiling was made of this weird stuff that you just see in sci-fi. They build all this stuff. It's just,
I did South Korea, and I remember being in Seoul. I went all around South Korea. My dad was living down in the south at the time, and I went to Seoul at one point, and I remember feeling like Seoul was how I expected Japan to be. You know, like Korea to me was digital, whereas Japan was analog. It's like Japan was in the 80s, and Korea was up to date. You know, here we are, let's get going with it. But yeah, I imagine China is just taking things to a whole new level. I would love to go. And see with my own eyes.
Yeah, you got to see it with your eyes, because it's very, what people don't realize as well is it's because of the sheer vast size of it, it's different in different areas. So obviously the West is where it came from, like a real sheet. That's the Northern Silk Road. So that's way back, from Marco Polo. Can't like cross the Silk Road. So that's very old and rural. That's real, like the obviously the issue, political issues with the
your audio disappeared there, mate. We didn't hear what you said.
No, that's in the West. Is all part of the political issues with the Muslim. Uyghurs, I think they're called, or Uyghurs or something there. So obviously that's all in the West, which you never realised, but it's all old and rural sort of Chinese. Then you have the big populated area of China, which is like Beijing and all, and Chengdu and all that, the touristy area. That's called the big city. And then you've got what I call the Wild West of China. That's the South. That's where literally it's rough and ready, roads are broken up. That's where they eat dogs. They don't eat dogs anywhere else. It's only in the South. Do they not? Yeah, they don't. They have them pets in Beijing. There's not a thing. They make it in the black markets, but it's only in the South that they do, because that's where they eat literally anything. That's where So that's where like supposedly the COVID came from, and all that. Stuff. That southern part. It's all that southern part, which is wild to the west. I call it the Wild West in China. So there's 3 different areas. That's the best way I can describe it. Right. But yeah, I definitely recommend it once they open. I can't wait for it to open to go back.
Go back. Will you go back with Globebusters on a tour there? Or yeah,
because we run a London to Beijing.
Yeah.
Tibet, all the way down to Tibet, the Tibetan Highway, and then back into Beijing. Wow. And that's 3 months. And that's I'm dying to do that.
Wow. Their tours just look amazing. They're just sensational.
The tours are unbelievable. So, it's, absolutely.
Right. Cheers for that one, Charlie. Nice one. Good question, Paul.
Cheers, Charlie.
Next one, Paul Foster. Hope you're both well. it was a really interesting presentation he put in at the bike stop earlier in the year. My question is, can he still click his heels together?
Is that because I'm 31? Yes, I can still do it. I'm not 61.
we should explain here, folks. If you're not aware, Rhys's sort of trademark when he was doing the world, and is that still your trademark now?
Still, yeah, I did it in Iceland as well. Yeah, I can still do it. I can still do it.
You'll see if you go onto his. I'll put links down below, folks. So if you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching the YouTube vid, then I'll probably put a picture up now so you can see. But that is his trademarks. Basically, he jumps up in the air and clicks his heels together. Yeah, which he did all over the world.
It's basically, if you've ever watched, Billy Elliot. So basically, Billy Elliot, he does it walking down the streets, and so he does it very small. And then I was actually in China with this Thai lady, and then I was doing it off the wall, the city wall of Chiang, and then basically she said, do it higher, do it higher, do it higher. And I was like, okay, do it higher, and managed to get a photo. And I was like, that looks pretty cool. And so then obviously that's how that developed. So yeah, and then people were kind of like, so then I was like, one of those little quirks of doing it around the world. And there you go.
But again, there you go. That's your marketing brain, isn't it? That is your marketing brain.
It somehow works. Out of all the things, that works. And I literally went to a talk once. I think it was even at ABR. I was chatting, and then at the end, I did my little foot tap. And then some guy came up and said, I didn't know who you were until you did the foot tap. And I was like, and you're the guy who did the foot tap around the world. I was like, my thank you.
Yeah, that's me. No, never mind the 70-odd countries, 50-odd thousand miles. Don't worry about that.
As soon as I did the foot tap, he was just like, you're the guy who did the foot tap around the world. And I was like, yeah, that's literally all I did.
Yeah, that is me. That's all I have for me. Yeah. He said, ride safe, both of you. Cheers, Paul. Thanks for that, Paul.
Thank you.
Harley, how's it, guys? Do you think psychic abilities exist? I love these questions. Awesome. Right. Psychic abilities.
Almost in a way of, what's the word? Telepathic ways, almost. Not psychic abilities, but like senses within connections, I would say. So, i.e., mother-daughter, father-son, those sort of things. 100%, I think so. Like they say, like we're twins, don't they? Like, somehow have a sense of something happened, or you get shivers, goosebumps, and you get, there's something happens. That 100%. Psychic powers. I'm going to say no.
Do you believe in all of that then? All the mumbo jumbo? Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in life after death? Do you believe in anything like that?
No, I do not.
Do you know?
No, I don't. I've never had any experience of being touched on my foot by when sleeping or anything like that. So I'm a man who believes when he sees. So so once if I see it, then I believe it, kind of thing. Yeah.
I've covered this umpteen times in the podcast actually, and I have a story where I saw something that I can't explain. I saw two guys once in a previous job. I was a bouncer in Glasgow before I joined the police, and one night I was going down a back fire exit, totally bricked in. There's no other way either from the way in the top where I've come from inside the club, and then there's a door right at the very bottom that led out to a back car park, and this is at the start of my shift, so that door at the bottom of the stairs is padlocked shut with a lump of 4x2, a big chain and a padlocked from the inside, so nobody can get in. Oh, there's my dog come to say hello. No one can get in, and I've come from the top of the stairs inside the club, and I'm walking down the stairs, and halfway down the stairs these two guys just sort of came walking along the landing and started to come up the stairs towards me, and I was just like, all right guys, who are you? Where have you come from? And at that point, I shouted at them because I was shitting myself, to be perfectly honest. Like, where the fuck have you come from? And so one of my mates inside the club, another bouncer, heard me shouting, and I said to him, "Get down here. There's two geezers down here." So he came. I turned around and the guys had gone. So we ran all the way down the stairs. Yeah. And these are just narrow stairs. They're about 6 to 8 feet wide. totally bricked in all the way, no windows, nothing. And we get to the bottom, and it's all padlocked, chained shut at the bottom, still secure. So I'm just like, I don't understand any of this. And then later that night, we were out on the door, and the manager came down, and this other guy said to the manager, he's like, you might want to watch a big man tonight. I think he's been smoking something. So he told him the story, and the manager was just like, yeah, those two. He said, yeah, cleaners see them all the time. This place is full of them. And proceeded to tell me all these different stories that the cleaners had told him about people that they'd seen. And, I can't explain it. And then later in life, my mum used to say she saw, before she died, she used to say she saw like her brothers and sisters who'd passed. They would just come to her, sit in her room. She'd wake up and they'd just be stood at the end of her bed. And I used to think, my mum was fighting cancer for a long time, and I just thought, whatever you need to believe to help you through it, fine. And then joining in the old bill, I ended up working in Downing Street in diplomatic protection, and the amount of guys, after I told them my story about what I saw, I had loads of geezers coming up saying they'd seen, there's a little girl in Downing Street, a wee girl ghost. She's like 5-6 years old, and she sort of hangs around one of the stairs that takes you down to the bottom canteen under Downing Street. And the amount of guys that were just like, they'd go to get a drink from the vending machine, and they'd come back and they'd just be like, such and such, the lassie was there, the wee girl was there again, just blasé. And I was like, what are you talking about, wee girl? And they told me the story. It's like, you're pulling my chain here. But there was loads of stories. There's lots.
I mean, there is. It's like I said. It's one of these things. I think if you see it, as soon as you see it, as soon as you know, then you're kind of like, okay. And I haven't had that experience yet.
Yeah, I can't explain it, and I don't know what to think. But I do think as I've got older, I've gone from being somebody who was very logical, very black and white about everything, and that's just the way things are. We're just a bunch of cells through a freak of nature, freak occurrence. We've combined. We now exist. You live, you die. End of. I've gone from that sort of mentality to I think I've become a lot more spiritual now, and I kind of I'm open to a lot more things now. I don't know. I don't know if there is. I don't know if there isn't. But I think I'm more open to it. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think especially when you travel and you see different things in different aspects. Like one thing I've definitely seen is, like, even coming back from Iceland, the sheer mountains and the Mother Nature. I always, I wouldn't believe in one God, like one person. I believe in a multiple of. I believe in Mother Nature more than anything. You just look at how powerful she is. There's volcanoes going off. There's things, like you said, out of our control. We can't control that. We can't control what Mother Nature. Literally, we went on a little boat trip to go see whales, whale diving, whale watching, and she's telling us about these mountains. She goes, whenever you see these mountains with like a square top, and they've got frigates in the middle. That used to be a glacier, and over time, over the thousands of years, that's melted. And I was like, so how old would that be? And she's like, that'll be way before ours. And I was like, so then I sit there and think, so even like, okay, not trying to open too much of the topic, but obviously, even if we weren't here, global warming or not, if we weren't here, the glaciers will still melt, and they'll still freeze, and they'll still melt, and they'll still freeze. Like, literally, we were on this boat, and then she says, yes, all this was glacier hundreds of thousands of years ago, and now it's all melted, and now we're in the water of the glacier, the fjords and all this sort of stuff. And then ever since, you go around, you ride around Iceland, you see it. So there's another one. So that used to be, now it's all melted, and now it's all, and that's hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, I mean, so you sit there, and you almost think that there's something far more powerful. I believe in the mountains and the Mother Nature. That's
But I mean, the world is cyclical in nature, isn't it? You look at the Sahara Desert. Well, that was an ocean at one point. The Sahara Desert was ocean,
Yeah,
and then it was a deep forest, and now it's a desert. And who's to say that in 300,000 years' time it's not an ocean again? Who knows? Like, who knows?
I mean, you look at Chernobyl. I mean, Chernobyl was apparently one of the most toxic things obviously a human can create. But now there's photos of deers and birds and trees and foreign nature has taken over again.
Yeah.
That area, and it's rebirthing. And it's like, so the most toxic thing a human can create is actually being still overtaken by nature in itself. She works in a longer period of time. Whereas obviously we only live, in a human span, luckily 80 years, hopefully, on average. In our short span, over a period of time, Mother Nature's in a long period. Yeah.
We saw that in lockdown, didn't we? When everyone was locked down, all the animals that were reclaiming the streets in all the cities. It was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Have you seen that David Attenborough show on, I think it was on Apple TV, I don't even have Apple TV. I think it was one of the times I was bored and did the free trial thing.
Yeah.
And then I watched the David Attenborough one. That's really good. It's one about the lockdown and the animals. And so when it was all in lockdown, there was actually a bunch of David Attenborough's film crew and actually were the ones that were sort of went out and actually filmed and documented the whole lockdown thing on the animals. Definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. I've not seen that one.
Yeah, definitely recommend it. So. Yeah.
I think this whole psychic ghost and the meaning of life and everything, that is a conversation for a beer, a fire around a campsite somewhere, and maybe some other things. Yeah, definitely. See you at the next adventure, mate. Definitely.
Love it.
Right, last one. Cheers for that, Harley. Last one from Patreon, and this one is Michael Heaton. Cheers, Michael. Something that has bugged me for at least a few minutes. Why do ghosts only appear at night? Are they afraid of the daytime? Also, if you could teleport anywhere at all right now, where would you go? Right. I don't think the first one's a question.
That was a bit of a trick question. That was teleportation. Where would you go?
But it's a valid point.
That is a valid point, actually. That's a very valid one on a daytime, maybe because of the shadow. Well, anyway, that's the fire.
Get you thinking, wasn't it?
That's around the fire.
Campfire, yeah.
Teleportation. Ooh,
where would you go?
I think Colombia again.
It's been a while, Rhys. It's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a while. Oh dear. It's going to have to be. I'm going to have to say it's going to have to be China, Colombia, or Argentina. I'm going to throw three out there just because.
Now, at all right now. Now, teleport. Does that mean at this current moment in time, or are we talking going back or forward in time as well?
Ooh. If we're going back in time, my gosh,
that adds a different angle to it.
That adds a huge angle to it because obviously you want to go back in time and change something. That's the thing. But then if you change something in the past, then you may not be who you are today because
it might not even exist.
Yeah, everything you've done in the past has led you to who you are today or where you are and what you're doing. Like you say, you could not be alive if you did something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so would I teleport back in time? No. It would be nice to maybe view things, like in those TVs or virtual realities, just sit back and watch my life back in the day. Like, those are the good old days. I would like to go back to like prehistoric times, and just to look. I don't want to be there on the ground with the blooming Tyrannosaurus, everything's eating you and stuff around about you. But just have a quick look at it. Oh wow, this is good. And the Egyptian. I'd love to go back to the Egyptian times and see what actually was going on. What was going on back there? Like, how the hell did they do what they did, and why did they do what they did? Yeah, to be able to go back and then sort of come back again, and but not stay there. Yeah.
Just be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, fly on the wall kind of thing. Yeah, I'd love to go back to World War II time and just see how it was like. Just see the because that's as close to us as now. Still quite far. You go back, have a look, see what actual life was like.
Yeah. Interesting.
100%.
Yeah. Because all our grandparents were living through those times, weren't they?
Exactly. So then you have a better understanding of where
Yeah.
we've come from. So then, yeah.
Right. So if
Definitely.
we're not talking time travel and I could just teleport, where would I go right now? Do you know what I would? I really like my time in Japan. So I'd love to go back to Japan, but oh wow. Do you know, like Africa's still got me because I feel I gave up. I feel like it beat me. So I want to
You want to give it some. You want to give it some.
I want to go back and I want to sort of conquer my demons and travel more in Africa.
Yeah. So that's on your list to do then, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's unfinished business there.
There's unfinished business. Yeah, that's going to be conquered. That's going to be conquered. That does.
At some point.
At some point. Definitely.
Right, cool. That is all the Patreon questions. Thank you very much to all the clan members for leaving them. If you've got time, mate, we can fire over onto Instagram.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Should I turn my light on as well? I've only just seen my screen. It's a bit dark, isn't it? It's a bit dark. Wait a minute.
No worries. Me again, folks. Just another shout out for this week's sponsors, who are the Influencer Store. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. And now, if you've got any of my merch over at TeapotOne.com, all of that is handed by Roger and Charlotte over at the Influencer Store. It's really good quality. It's British made. That's why I've gone with them. So a huge thanks to the Influencer Store. Lastly, folks, this is just one from me. It's a massive shout out to each and every one of you who's listened to the podcast, each and every one of you that watches the vids, both here and across on the main TeapotOne channel. Thank you very much for all your support. Thank you very much for engaging in the comments, liking and sharing the social media stuff, liking and sharing the vids. Sharing vids is a huge thing. Really is. You've got no idea how much that helps. You bump you up in the algorithm. So if you enjoy what you watch, what you listen to, share it amongst all your mates. And thank you very much. For all those of you over in the clan on Patreon, not much I can say except, a heartfelt thank you. You folks go that extra mile, and I really do appreciate it. I couldn't do this without your support. If you fancy checking that out, head to patreon.com/TeapotOne. Okay then. Let's get back to the chat. Let there be light.
I wasn't even looking at my screen for a moment. Then I was like, geez, can you even see me?
Nice one. Right. Okay. So we are over on Instagram, which for me is at TeapotOne Insta. And for Rhys is at 2moroRider. I will leave all his links for his socials down below. Right. First one, Richard Higgett. That's Bandit Man. I followed this trip as I had just bought the same bike. That tiger must have a lot of memories for him. What would he have liked to personally? Would he have liked to personally keep the bike? It was in Triumph Hinckley's museum the last time I saw it. Yeah, so Triumph loaned you the bike, didn't they? And then took it back after the trip.
Yeah, because it was always their bike. They never. That was part of the deal. That was their sort of promotional thing to try and get on the map. The adventure market. Because remember, they were back in the day. It was always BMW. That was the only,
right.
Whereas obviously, there was the likes of yourself on the sports bike. There was Nathan Millwood, Millwood doing on a little postie, and then obviously I thought, well, I'll do the headset adventure and then go on the Triumph. So would I love it back? 100%. Yeah, I'd like it in my lounge as opposed to the Triumph's lounge. But then again, having said that, it's nice to be there. Because if it's in my lounge, it's only I can see it.
Aye.
Whereas if it's there, at the moment, they've just moved it to the cafe area now. So literally everyone who goes there sees the history of Triumph, sees the history of the bike. They get to have their cup of coffee and they get to see the bike, see who it is, and then think, wow, that's got some history. Obviously, that's got some story. So it's a combination of, but I've always said to Triumph, whenever you get tired of it and you need to obviously move on with things, and that needs to either go in the back storage room somewhere, that's coming back to me. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, where's your bike?
Mine's just sat in the garage.
Yours is just sat in the garage. Yeah.
She just sat in the garage. You know, she's not turned a wheel since 2015. I rode her to the first overland event back in 2015 for the bike launch. For the book launch. And that was the last time I rode it. I rode her home, and then she's never been turned on since. So she just sort of sat in my garage rusting away, I feel quite sad, because I'm like, that she deserves so much more recognition for what that bike did. Not me, what the bike did. You know, that bike put up with so much fucking grief, and it never missed a beat. You know, mechanically, apart from the subframe snapping 4 times, the engine. I mean, the engine got flooded out. I got shot at. The bike was amazing. It never ever missed a beat, and it just doesn't feel like the bike gets any recognition. You know, Suzuki aren't bothered. I had a bit of a falling out with Suzuki, sadly, Suzuki UK. So they will never PR the whole thing. And I just think, it deserves, not me, but the bike deserves some recognition for what it's done.
Yeah, the bike does in itself. Yeah, I can get that. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because otherwise, she's just gonna rot in my garage, and it's like, no, this is a bit of history. No Suzuki's ever done that. No Gixxer has ever done that.
No, so that's the thing. It's there's got to be somewhere where it can, at least. I guess that's why there's 2 answers to it. It's good to have it like yourself, because it's yours. But then again, like you say, it would just sit in the garage, or if it allows whoever you live with, it's going to sit in your lounge to look at. But then if it's out there sitting somewhere, then it's able to, like you say, get the bike's credibility, the bike story there, and that's it. So maybe you can try a museum somewhere. Maybe there's an Icelandic motorcycle museum.
Is there?
Yeah, there is.
If they want to contact me and discuss about getting it out there, then yeah, definitely. And that goes for anyone. If there's any sort of museums or anything out there that would be interested in having her for a while, then you know I'd love for her to get a little bit of recognition. So
give her the limelight, because she needs as much as anything, like you say.
The bike shed, when the bike shed first opened, they spoke about somebody in their PR team had dropped me a line about something, and in passing had said, "Oh, what's up? What you doing with your bike now?" So I said, "Oh, nothing. It's just sat in my garage." And they said, "Oh, you know, maybe we could look at having it as a sort of temporary display at the bike shed." And I was like, "Absolutely, just let me know." And then I never ever heard anything from them. So it was like, "Oh well, okay."
Oh, we're shouting out to them now. Then nonsense.
Yeah. Anyone at the bike shed, if you want the bike, let me know.
Yeah, come on. Wow.
Anyway, right, okay. Next one, Yorkshire Hero. How have you found riding a bigger bike in remote areas with fuel being scarce? Also, any advice on riding adventure bikes for us short arses, as I'm only 5'5"? How tall are you, Rhys?
5'11".
Oh, okay.
I'm 180. I'm literally just shy of 6 foot. So annoying. I could say I'm 6 foot, but I'm not. 5'11".
Right.
Yeah, how tall are you?
Well, I was 6'3", but I think I'm either getting old or my fat gut is pulling me down and I'm slouching. But I'm definitely 6'3", but I just need to stand up straight more.
Oh yeah. Wait 1 second.
Oh, he's off. Right, we'll do some more ads.
Just bring my cat in. I know. So continue. But yeah, so you're 6'3". Okay.
Right. So, how do you find riding a bigger bike in remote areas with scarce fuel?
Bigger bike in remote areas. Well, like I said, I think the story before, because I did run out of fuel, pushed 4 miles. In remote areas like Turkmenistan, in Central Asia, that sort of stuff. I mean, fuel's actually pretty scarce in the distance of it. How do you run it? You can always keep it. I don't know about yourself, but I didn't actually carry any spare fuel. The odd time I did, like in Australia. So going across to Nullarbor and that sort of stuff. Obviously, I had just a little spare 5-litre just in the back seat. I could have done with that, obviously, in South America, but I didn't think it was that scarce. And I had that in Central Asia. So I only picked and chose where I needed spare fuel on that front. So I never really found fuel an issue, apart from when I ran out on the 4 mile.
I didn't. Yeah. The only place I did carry, I had a 17.5 litre tank on the Jigsaw. And I had the Roto packs when they'd only just come out. Roto packs, those little red sort of fuel thin fuel cans. Yes, so I had a couple of them that they just fit really nicely into like an R20 Kriega bag. They just fit handily straight in that. So I carried a spare 7 litres of fuel basically everywhere until I got to Chile. And then when I got to Chile, there was petrol stations. Like every 200 meters, there's a petrol station. So I just thought, don't need that anymore. So I didn't bother. And I followed the sort of Pan America heading north. And then I was going through the Atacama Desert and I ran out of fuel.
Atacama Desert. There's not much in Atacama Desert.
The driest place on the planet.
Yeah, the driest place on the planet,
Yeah, and in fact, that was one of the places I remember before I ran out of fuel where something caught my eye at the side of the road. Can't remember what it was. Something caught my eye, and I was like, remember how I said to you, I've seen that picture where you just park your bike off the road and it looks like there's like a dirt track with something there. And I was like, I know what you've done here. Right? But anyway, that was the only place I ran out of fuel. And even then, somebody just stopped and gave me a run like 5 mile down the road to where the petrol station was and took me back as well. So it was awesome.
Oh yeah, there's always I always think if there's other people have vehicles in different countries.
Absolutely.
Like what we were touching on before, obviously, there's other people live in these other countries. Unless you go out of space or somewhere there isn't people. If there's people, they've got cars or some sort of transport.
Or mopeds.
Or mopeds, yeah. And I mean,
everywhere's got mopeds.
Everywhere's got mopeds. Mopeds is everywhere, or tuk-tuk to something. And I mean, there was a few times you'd ask a local, where's fuel? And then they would turn up, like you say, in the scooter, and then they've got like some little, like the kettle, big massive kettle pot with fuel in it, and then you just turn up and you look and you're like, it smells like it. Yeah, go on and put it in. And you just hope it's clean enough. Starts, okay, cool.
I was up in the mountains in Peru. Not long after I'd we're talking like within a week of me running out of fuel in Chile. I'm into Peru and I'm up in the mountains and it felt really remote. But I came into a little village and I'm thinking, I've probably got 15, 20 miles of fuel left here. I need to be looking for some fuel. And I was just driving around this little village and I saw a copper just leaned up against a wall at the side of the road next to his moped and sort of went up and sort of said in my best Spanglish that I possibly could, gasolinas, where kind of thing. And he's, follow, jumped on his moped and off he went. So I just followed him and he took me to a house, like just like an apartment type thing. Knocked on the door and this lady came to the door smoking a cigarette and he spoke to her and she looked over and she was like, hey, come in. So I walked into her house and she had like water, like water butts that you collect. You get them at B&Q.
The big ones.
Big things that you fill rainwater with. She had them, like 5, 6 of them in her front room with fuel in it. And she basically, she took like a big plastic bottle with a pair of tights on the top and she ladled fuel in and then gave me the fuel. And I just gave her some money and that was it. Like she's smoking a cigarette with vats of fuel in her house. That was it. I got fuel and off I went.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, they do say actually, fuel's not dangerous. It's the vapors, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
the more fuel, the better. Less
the vapors that were just building in her front room while she had a cigarette. Mate, God. Oh well, whatever.
Yeah.
Right, okay. What about
the second question?
Advice on riding adventure bikes for short arses?
Oh yeah, so obviously I can touch. I got a long inner leg actually. That's for my mum. She's got long legs, so it sort of helps. So I can actually touch the ground on adventure bikes But I do know for a fact there's my old man. He's actually 5'8", 5'8". I know he's got a shoulder in the leg, and he has to. So when he rides, obviously you do have to think about where you're going. So you have to, where you're going to come into a stop. Then okay, so if the ground is going there, obviously you want to put the foot on that side, not the gradient.
Your audio's disappearing again, mate.
Oh, is my audio again? Okay,
yeah,
so
you're better now. Yeah.
There we go. So obviously you're riding up. If the gradient of the road is to the left, you need to think about, right, you're going to put the right foot down. And you literally just stunt yourself and you sit on one arse cheek. And then obviously sort of then just jump off and then sit off another. And then that's what I've seen them do. And I know for a fact that works. And you just gotta play bum seats. I mean, that's literally it. You just gotta that's literally from the training I've had, that's literally what you've got to do. And you gotta jump up and down. Or you can do the real fancy thing. I know like the training schools do, like Simon Pavey, the BMW, or the Triumph Adventure School and all that. They take off with one foot, and then when they bike rolls over, then throw the leg over and then take off. I've seen a few, even short women do it.
Yeah. It looks very cool, but not a chance can I do that.
You can't do that? Oh, okay. Surely you can. Better work. Oh, my God.
But I know, like, sorry, go on.
Oh, okay. No. I was just going to say, because the biggest thing I've always recommended to people is, I think I even said at ABRs, you don't have to be a Dakar rider to go traveling on a motorcycle. You don't need to be thrown out the back end and all these. I always laugh when they tell you, like, you see all these marketing material from all manufacturers. The dude there, the professional. I mean, all Jews, they can ride. Happy days. But what we do, or what you travel, you're not going to do that with like a load of gear and all that sort of stuff. Because you just break the bike within a month and the happy days. And you need the best skills I've always recommended. It's slow maneuvers. So you're coming up, and then you're coming up in Africa, and then boom, there's an elephant or a tiger or a lion, or you're in Canada and there's a bear. I need to do a U-turn. I know a heck of a lot of riders cannot do a full-on U-turn, fully loaded. Maybe their wife on the back or something. They need to do a full-on U-turn. You try to tell the grizzly bear, wait 1 second.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's slow control, slow maneuvers. It's touch control, it's center of balance. And then once you've got that is the best skill to have.
Yeah, good advice, actually. That is good advice for sure. Slow maneuver, even on the tarmac, just for your normal riding. Slow maneuvering is some of the best skills you can learn. For your own confidence and just for everyday life, really, on the bike, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
I think these days as well, manufacturers are much more sort of clued up and prepared, armoured. Is that the right word? They have shorter riders in mind now, in that you can get suspension lowering kits, you can get lowered seats, you can get tall seats, you can get all sorts now for most of the big adventure bikes. They offer a variety of different options, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. They changed a lot of things, and I mean, I know Triumph just brought out like their new 1200s, and it's they give that different range from the Rally to the Explorer to the GT. It's different height range. It is different height range. And like you say, you can get now 2-level seats as well, and that sort of stuff. Me personally, I actually don't like the lowered suspensions. I don't know if it might be a big debate for some people, because I just like to keep the suspension as it is, and obviously have the clearance if needs be, rather than tampering with the suspension and pushing it down or having lowered suspension. So then the bike's a lot lower. So if you do ever start hitting things, so I'd rather have the ground clear.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're buying an adventure bike and you're going to be going off-road, you're a minority for sure. But, for sure, you want the maximum suspension travel for sure, if that's what you've got in mind for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Unless you do what you did and then you just say, hey, I'm going to just take a bike which no one will take.
I always say to people, when people say to me, what bike would you recommend I take? And it's Jacques Lucassen said this. You've met Jacques, haven't you? The guy that did the World on the R1. Yeah. Jacques said it to me. It's the best advice. And he just turned around and he said, take the bike that makes you smile.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. like I said before, any bike will go. Any bike will get over whatever terrain you're putting in front of it. It might get battered. It might be really uncomfortable. You might have to drag the bloody thing at times.
Yeah.
But the bike essentially will do it, right? It's unless you throw it over the cliff at the other end, when you start that engine, you're going to be able to ride somewhere. It's the rider that is the difference, for sure. Yeah. So just take the bike that makes you smile.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with that.
Right. Next one, Muskie 1450. Have you read the Sunday Post article on the two British women who rode scooters around the world in the late 1950s, now trying to get into the Guinness Book? Oh, no, I've not. Have you ever heard of them?
No, I've not. No, I have not heard of the 1950s, two scooters.
Wow.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. There is obviously a few stories that you hear about that pop up, obviously back in the old days that you sort of hear that they don't really document. But no, I've heard of. I'll have to do a little Google search and see if they.
Isn't it crazy when the overland greats, the gods of the overland world, people like Ted Simon, Elspeth Beard, people like that, who did these journeys like back in the 60s, 70s when there was nothing that we have today. They didn't even have TV and media the way we have it. So they had no idea what they were going into, never mind GPS and things like that. And even maps. Sometimes there was no maps for the places these people were going to. They were literally going off into the void and they did it. And by the sound of it, their experience sounds very similar to what we had, in that everybody seems to say people are nice. It's the same experience. You're welcomed wherever you go, mostly.
Same experience. And all Jews. I mean, I've met Ted a few times, and because obviously his was on a Tiger as well. It's incredible to hear their story. Yeah, and it's almost like I watched because obviously I'm following like Itchy Boots at the moment, and there's a couple of times she gets lost and she just looks out the Google Maps on the phone, on the fancy iPhone. And boom, 5G, happy days. I said, it's easy.
Yeah.
And then I sit there and I think, God, Ted must then look at us and then go, God, that's easy.
I don't even remember Google Maps. I don't even remember using Google Maps on my trip.
No, I don't remember Google Maps either.
I had a Garmin, I had a sat nav, but I don't remember Google Maps to the extent that there is now.
No, I didn't have because I think it was iPhone 2 that was out maybe or something like that. Something but that's the thing. Like you look at it's like different levels of. So I look back. I look now at and then I then I met Ted at ABR. Hey Ted, and I always say that you must look at me and think, I had it easy on the fancy Triumph and the fancy. And I'm sitting there, it's just the same thing. It's just repeating itself. It just,
of course it is, yeah. Because you look at people that are doing it now, and you're just like, it's so bloody easy, isn't it? Like for me, it's the cameras. Like, here we go.
Oh, you still got them?
That's what I took. The Hero 2. That was brand new. I took the Hero 2, and then. It was a bag of shit. And then I bought... And then when I got to Australia, I bought the Hero 3 Plus.
Oh,
and it lasted about a month and then it died on me.
Wow.
But then you look at the quality of what you get now. Like, here we go. There's what I use now. The Hero 10, like the 10, 9 and the 10, even the 8, 9 and 10.
That's where I've got all the 10s in there. And it's
the quality's phenomenal. You've got drones, the laptops that you carry. I always say I would love to do my trip again, just to have not only the technology, the camera technology, pardon me, that we possess these days, but also now just the knowledge that I have for editing and the knowledge around social media, being savvy about it, savvy-ish about it now. Yeah. It's like, let me do it again. Let me do it again.
Exactly the same. Well, it's like what we're touching on, like, we were kind of influencers back in the day. I mean, like, it's the same concept. I mean, like, because there was one episode, and it's only because it's fresh, because I watched the episode recently, like, I didn't know where to go. And she's just lost. And then she just goes, I just do.
Yeah.
booking.com. The hotel's here. Oh, there it is. I remember getting lost in the mountains of Colombia, then asking some dude in his driveway, his mum comes out the driveway. I'm trying to find a place to stay.
Yeah.
Oh, whip out booking.com. And that's about like drones. I mean, like, I've got the brand new DJI Mini 3 Pro, and I went and bought that for Iceland. And probably seen it on my Instagram. I mean, it just captures things at a whole different level.
It's phenomenal, isn't it?
It's just, you just look at me like, is that where I'm at? You're like, yeah, capturing different views and different highs. Even if you want to capture it like there, you can do it.
And it's the third person view that you can get of you as well. Like, then, okay, the DJI is not great at tracking a motorbike when you're riding it, but you can do things like, you can be sat on the bike and then have the drone take either a picture or a panning video shot of you where you're sat. So you see you on the bike with the background. It's phenomenal what you can do now.
Wow.
Talking about itchy boots, I am a fair play to that lady. I cannot believe the work output she churns out. It's like, I don't know how she does it. I do not know how she creates that content on the go the way she does. It's just phenomenal. It's incredible.
I think I have a theory, but I don't want to start a debate. This is my theory.
About somebody else doing it.
No, yeah.
I was convinced, but TMF, Missing and Flyer, he gets on very well with Norley, and she's adamant with him. She's like, no, I know people think there's somebody else doing it, but it's all me. Every 3-4 days, whatever it is, she just books herself into a hotel and she spends a couple of days just chucking out a couple of videos for the last few days, and then off she goes again. She does that, and she just does it cyclically. Cyclical.
Yeah. It is possible, because I mean, I know I chat to Hannah. What's her name? Hannah Johansson. She rides the Triumph. I think she's the Triumph Norway ambassador. And she was in Iceland at the same time that I was in, and she's over there at the moment, and she posts content all the time, and good content, Instagram and all that sort of stuff. I messaged her because she was in the same town that I was in, or going to be in. I was like, let's meet up. And she's like, oh, no, that was 5 days ago.
Yeah.
So I'm in a 5-day periodic period. So she would get to a joint and then do 5 days.
Yeah.
Continue, boom, 5 days and continue. So there is that point. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
See, that's sort of what I did on my travels. Every sort of 3 weeks or so, 3 to 5 weeks, I'd book myself into a hostel, and I'd spend anywhere up to 4 or 5 days in the hostel. And I'd literally just sit there and I'd batter out the next episode, so that every 4 to 6 weeks, I had a new episode on the YouTube channel. But you can't do that. You just, you couldn't do that then, because I think I had 600 subscribers by the time I finished. So one video every 6 weeks just didn't cut the mustard. But like these days, you need to be chucking out for big growth. You need to be chucking out at least 2 videos a week now. Yeah. At least, like, I do one a week, and it's not great growth. If you can do 2 vids, like one every 5 days or so, that's probably optimum at the moment.
You do need to, and that's you need to keep that consistent. And to be fair, I mean, Itchy Boo, she does pretty well. I follow her, but I mean, there's no Jews there. I do know there's, she does have a team behind her. I've seen that back end of her website. Because I question her. I didn't like. I'm saying to you, like, that you're on the trip. How do you do that on the trip? Because I've been on the trip, never have that much time. I was like, was I too much? Was I spending too much time with Colombian women? Was I too preoccupied? Like, what's going on there? Does she literally not see anyone and just literally go to the hotel and just? So I searched up, and I do know there is a Norwegian company or Dutch company that runs all the back end of it. And then I said, well, okay, again, like we're talking about technology. Technology makes it so much easier now. It's like the GoPro, you just plug it in, doesn't it? And it's to the cloud.
Yeah.
and then boom, straight to the cloud. Okay, cool. So then you don't have to worry about hard drives. You don't have to worry about copy paste. It's just like you've probably experienced the GoPro 10. I mean, it's brilliant. Like in Iceland, I just
I don't use any of the cloud.
No, I mean, but like the transfer from like the camera.
I've never done it. I'm such a dinosaur. No, I literally take the SD card out and I whack it into my SD drive. I transfer all the files across, and I just do it like that. And I've had like mates and other people on trips who come away with GoPros, and when we stop for a coffee, the GoPro basically goes, "These are your highlights," doesn't it? Whack, there's the highlights going off the G sensor stuff. Poof, and they create these videos, these fucking amazing videos, whilst they're having a coffee. The AI just does it, and I'm sat there like, it's going to take me like 5 days to create this vid, and you've just done it over a coffee.
It's amazing. I know, it's the technology. Like you said, the technology of it just makes it. Oh, it's just next level stuff. It really is.
I do need to look at that. I do need to look at the sort of the AI side of GoPro a lot more and utilize it.
Yeah,
especially for the socials. Yeah.
Because like the socials, especially the socials. I mean, like, I know I've learned now. Like Instagram is just a quick. It's just a quick, one 30 seconds.
Yeah.
A minute, if that, of just one clip, 2 clips, and that's it. And then some shitty music in the background, and then people are happy.
Yeah, it's true. And like shorts on YouTube as well, like because it's basically TikTok, isn't it? TikTok has changed. Well, it's changed everything. It's changed Instagram because pictures do fuck all anymore. You can't get away with just posting a picture anymore, can you? It's got to be video. And YouTube, people, where I was worried about having people with a retention span or an attention span of like, can I get them to 6 or 7 minutes? So like half a vid. Let's say now you're like, well, you've got at most you've got 60 seconds in a short now on YouTube.
That's
and you're like, fuck's sake. And even then they say, if you can keep it under 10 seconds, that's optimal. And you're like, what are we creating? What sort of people are we creating?
it's just quick processed sort of attention span. I mean, that's literally it. Yeah.
Anyway, right. Okay, next one. McLeod of the Clan 113. No question, but I did love his program on Prime. Top lad, Rhys. Oh, were you on Prime, were you? Amazon Prime?
I am. I'm still on Prime, I should be.
Is this the world trip on that? Or is that
that's the world trip. That's the world trip on Amazon Prime, UK and USA.
There we go. And is it called 2moroRider?
No, it's called Around the World with Rhys Lawrey.
Around the world. There you go. I was going to say at the end of this, actually, if you want to, I was going to say to you, where do people go if they want to find out more about the world trip?
The world trip. They just whack in my name, Google or Amazon Prime, or just tomorrow. They will pop up on the website. But yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. Again, they've got to take their mind back to the 2014. Like you say, the GoPro 3. There was only 1080p. There was no drones. It was just me and a selfie stick. I had no film crew. It was edited by myself.
But mate, it was even the selfie stick. I remember watching you, like even when I was on my trip, I was watching what you're doing. And I was like, how's he done that? I didn't know about a selfie stick on a GoPro. It's like, fucking hell, that's amazing.
I mean, I don't have health and safety now. You shouldn't do it while riding, but screw it. And then just stick it up. And then,
I saw that.
It's kind of a drone. Just following you, but instead it's just you holding a GoPro, and as you ride, you go around the bend, and it's the old school drone.
And now we've got Insta360s, phenomenal. The footage off of them is nuts, isn't it?
Now you just choose which angle you want, where your angle is. Now we used to go there, stick the selfie stick out, and then realise the camera's upside down or something.
Youngins don't know they're born, do they, mate? Youngins don't know they're born. Well, a bunch of old farts. Right. Geoms, Terry Pratchett wrote, 1,000,000 to 1 chances crop up 9 times out of 10. What is your unluckiest story? Oh. Unluckiest story.
Unluckiest. I've got one.
Go on, then.
I mean, if we're sticking on the topic of the world trip and our world trips, then I've got one where literally I changed my tires in Santiago, Chile, to the TKC 18s, ready for fresh tires, ready for gravel. And then literally that day, the first day, boom, there was a volcano eruption going over towards Argentina. So I had to be diverted out towards the south, the sort of east. That was day one. Then next day two, I didn't get a puncture, but I got a flat tire, and then it was the valve in the tube. So obviously the old 800s had tubes, so I had a flat tire. So I ended up spending about a couple of days trying to figure out where the puncture is, and then realised that literally it's just the valve has been worn. They didn't replace the tube; they just replaced the tire. And then day three, my phone broke. So again, like the iPhone 2 or whatever. So I ended up dropping it, and sort of like I think I was doing the whole selfie riding thing, and then I sort of pulled it out the pocket and dropped and ran over it. So I ended up needing. It was like one day after another day after another day after another day, and then literally, I think it was about the fourth or fifth day. That was when I ran out of fuel and had to put it 4 miles. So at which point I reached El Calafate, and I was just like,
you were on a roll, mate. You were on a roll there.
So there you go. Pretty unlucky at those points. How about yourself?
I was trying to think, while you were talking, I was trying to think, and I was thinking to myself, but any sort of unlucky issues led me on to like meet people or just something else that happened that turned out being amazing. But there was one thing that I'm still gutted about this. When I was crossing Russia, I snapped the rear subframe for the 4th time, and it was right before I had planned to head down into Mongolia. So it was like right near it was just before Ulaanbaatar. I snapped it.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
And I got the frame. I got the frame re-welded, and I was riding on it, and it snapped again. And I just thought, I think it's suicide to head down into Mongolia now with on a sports bike where there's, I'm heading to a country where, apart from one stretch going to the capital, there's no tarmac. It's dirt track, isn't it? So that was going to be a challenge anyway on a sports bike. But to do it on a sports bike with a broken back, I just thought, I can't do this. It's not like I'm going to find somewhere that's got a spare part for the GSX-R 1000, So I was like, right. So I made the decision not to go into Mongolia, and Mongolia was one of the places. Ever since I saw A Long Way Round and I had the idea to do world travel, Mongolia was always somewhere I wanted to go. And it still is to this day. It's somewhere I want to go. So that I suppose that is, I don't like to say I've got regrets, but that is just one part where I'm like, fuck, I wish that hadn't happened. Because I wish that hadn't happened. I would love, even if I only got to Ulaanbaatar, even if I only got to the capital, it's like 80 miles from the border, isn't it? 100 miles south of the border with Russia. You get to Mongolian capital, and I think there even is tarmac road for some of that to get to Ulaanbaatar, to get to Ulaanbaatar. So even if I could have just got a Gixxer there, that would have been amazing. Nobody else has done that ever in the world, and it would have been, I'd love to have done that, but I will. Never mind.
Well, there we go. We can go to Mongolia. I haven't been to Mongolia either, so that's on my list as well. So there we go.
Yeah, it's still somewhere I want to do. I had a young couple on here who, Jesus, name's totally just gone straight out of my mind. So as the young couple, they rode the Sinis Terrain, the 125. They rode 2 of them on the Mongol Rally. Have you heard of the Mongol Rally? Yeah. They rode that, and they went through Mongolia, and I just thought, I'd love to do it. I'd love to do that, especially on a sports bike. Just to do it. But anyway, never mind.
I'll follow that.
Follow that. You're coming with me now. Right, last one on Instagram. JoeKid49. Question to you both. If you had the opportunity to change the design of a road sign, which sign would it be and why? And what should the new design be? Okay, so changing a road sign, which sign would it be, why, and what would you change it to?
Road sign.
Sheesh.
That's a tough one because I mean, there's quite a few that you look at and you're like, that's just bonkers. And, I mean, the road signs in Iceland. There's one where you go into these single tunnels. They got single tunnels going through the northern fjords, and they have, I guess, they cost time. Who knows the mountains? They only do one tunnel. It's about 7-8 kilometers long, so it's someone's coming in the other end. So what they have is little passing. On the passing bays, they have just to the right hand side. So you only have to give way if the sign is pointed to you. So you have to pull in at that car coming. And the sign is I'm going to question you now. So if what letter do you think the sign is?
For a passing bay?
Yeah.
Either a P for passing or G for give way?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? It's called, it's M. So all I can presume that is to move out the way. And then I'm thinking it could be a heck of a lot easier. But then again, they speak Icelandic. Maybe something like like something. Like,
oh, you're fluent. You're fluent in Icelandic.
And that means passing bay. You know what I mean? I don't know. But that was a bit confusing. But M. So straight off the head,
I've just thought of it. In the UK, 20 mile an hour speed limits. I would. It would be a 20 mile an hour side limit. Why? Because it's fucking ridiculous. If you can't react at 30 mile an hour, I appreciate the schools and all that, but if you can't react at 30 mile an hour, you should not be behind the wheel or the handlebars of a moving vehicle.
I'll be behind you.
What should the new design be? Well, the big pit where you throw them all in and crush them all up. That's what the sign should be. Ridiculous. 20 mile an hour, ridiculous. But anyway.
My gosh, honestly.
Woosah! I feel better now. I've vented that.
Because you let that out. That's good.
Yeah. Ooh. Right. I'm just popping across to Facebook. I'm not sure if we had questions on Facebook. Let me have a little look here. One more comment. It's just John Taylor Hayhurst saying, apparently you've been round the world, Teapot. Yes, I have. Yes. Apparently I talk about it all the time. I always feel like I always feel like I'm sort of like reticent to talk about the trip because I don't want to be that person that is all you are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it's, like a lot of people genuinely have an interest in it, don't they? And they want to talk to you about what you've done. Yeah. But I sort of feel a bit of a Billy Bollocks if I'm standing there waxing lyrical about, another time when I was in Mongolia and we did this, or I went to Chile and we did, you just think, don't be a dick. But I suppose it is a pretty special thing, isn't it? That we've achieved.
Yeah, it is. And I think especially if you speak to someone with common grounds, i.e., obviously like ourselves, we experience similar things. Mm-hmm. That obviously makes sense that we can get along because we have that common ground. But then again, like I guess it's touching on what we spoke about. I mean, I've been in, so for an example, like that normal job I had in New Zealand, the version job at Mitre 10. I mean, like literally, like I'm there. So I was working with the builders, ordering the materials, and all that sort of stuff. We had like a meeting or something in the coffee room, and I'm there just staring at my coffee. And some guy there, and he's like, "G'day, mate." Real. He's got a bit more of a Kiwi accent than me, and obviously, I've heard you bloody you've done something on a motorcycle, and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like, "Oh yeah, that's something." And at which point I sort of fees out, not telling people, Yeah. He's like, and then he starts asking questions. No. Like, I've heard it's something extraordinary. Like, you've done some world records and all that sort of stuff. And And I was like, so it's interesting. Yeah, we went around the world and 57 miles up into these many countries and blah, 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 blah. And I swear to you, like, sitting on the board. Hey, Jimmy, did you watch that rugby match the other day?
Totally blanked you. Oh no!
I stood there by the kennel, like, Milk my coffee.
Yeah.
And then they started talking about rugby because obviously it's New Zealand, so they also get rugby. So it's like, so then they started talking about rugby and all this and stuff. And I was just like, well, I'm going to tell anyone. I think that job I told probably maybe 2 people.
Did you?
Yeah, literally. And actually, funny one, there was the one time when I was like, you know what, I need to get out, I need to get back. And I don't know if you follow this, but like literally at that same job, I'm there again, selling timber behind the tools, doing my job. Okay, yeah, sweet. And then someone said, someone needs help with the gas bomb. We gotta go out with the gas bomb. Some guy said, while I'm locking, because I'm leaning over, he's trying to see my face. And he's like,
yeah.
Hey, you're Rhys Lawrey. And I was like, yeah. I know you're the guy who went around the world. I'm trying. Yeah, that's me. And literally, as I'm pulling, he's like, "What are you?" And he was astonished.
What are you doing here? Yeah.
He's looking at the shop, thinking, "Why are you serving?" I swear, he probably thought it was a prank. And he's like, "Why are you serving me this bottle of gas?" I'm thinking, what are you doing here? And the next minute, he's asking me, "You're not doing it anymore? Well, I thought you were in the UK. I thought you were traveling." Like, what? And I was just, no, I'm just, I could have paid off, so I got a job.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's mad, literally mad. It was just like out of this world, you know?
I've got a mate of mine, Dave, and because I used to get, you get it when you're out and about, especially when you're out and about on a bike with other bikers and stuff. People just come up, don't they? They're like, I was following your trip, blah, 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 blah. So if that ever happened, well, it would happen quite a bit initially when I was out with my mate Dave, and he used to just be like, right, you've got 10 minutes teapot time. That's all I was allowed. 10 minutes teapot every day that I was with it. So he'd be like, right, 10 minutes teapot, go. And it was like, right, I'll have 2 minutes for you, 2 minutes for you, 2 minutes for you. But it made me very conscious of that. I was just like, right, you've got to have something else to you. You can't just be that for sure.
You got to do something else. You can't keep beating the own horse or beating the same horse or something like that. Whatever that saying is, you can't.
Yeah. Life moves on, doesn't it? For sure.
Look at yourself, man. You're doing everything like through this.
Well, yeah. I mean, I still haven't figured out A, what I do for a living now, and B, how I do it, and. Is it something I can keep doing? I don't know. It's keeping the wolves at bay at the moment. I can pay bills, but it doesn't feel like it's a long-term thing for me at the moment. I'm like, I don't just want to break even every month. I need to be planning for the future. Well, right, what's that going to be? Is that going to be tours? Probably tours, I think, because I get so many people asking me about tours now. So it's maybe need to make something of that. I don't really know. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Who knows?
Indeed, yeah. You never know.
Right, dude. That's we've gone through all the questions, mate. That's all the questions sorted. That is 2.5 hours flown by.
Nice.
That's crazy, man.
That's crazy.
So, other than Amazon, can people still go on like YouTube and things like that and see your trip, or is that all being pulled for Amazon?
No. It's still on YouTube, but it's in episode format. So they just got to put up with. There's 15 episodes. They can watch the world trip, 1 to 15 episodes. Mm-hmm. The Amazon thing is a film, so it's sort of like combined it all in one film. Long films. It's the same thing, but just in a film concept.
Yeah.
They take a cut. I'd take a cut, and then Happy Days. But it's for Prime. Like if you've got Prime, it's the delivery and all that sort of stuff. It's free to watch, and all that sort of stuff.
That's a good idea.
And then
Go on. Sorry. Go on.
No, yeah, and then YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's just episode format. So that's just put up some adverts and Happy Days. So. Yeah.
See, I've got 1st of October this year is the 10-year anniversary for me when I left. And I've always thought, do you know what? To celebrate that, I'll re-edit all the episodes because I'll re-edit them with the sort of skill set I've got now and like with copyright free music, because I don't make a penny on any of the original vids, because they're all copyright struck. And I thought I'll re-edit them. So that was my plan, was I'd look at the dates that I published all the original ones, and on the same date 10 years on, I would publish the new vid. Well, 3 weeks away from October the 1st. I haven't even, and I still won't. I'll not have a chance. I just won't have a chance. I've got so much still to do, so that's not happening. So, like, what can I do to celebrate 10 years?
It's a good idea, because even I watch those old ones now, my series of my records. I watch it, and like you said, the skills now, learn a bit more on this. Shit, too recent. That could have been skimmed down to at least 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And I made it 15 minutes. I've made people watch 10 minutes of me go,
yeah. Oh, man,
But but people can watch it all day. Cool. The most active I'm on actually is Instagram. That's where my bread and butter is. I tried the TikTok, but it's just ain't my thing.
TikTok's a weird one, man, because it seems to be an incredibly powerful sort of marketing tool. It really, especially for the younger sort of generations, for sure. But I haven't quite figured out. Like, I've had a couple of vids that have done like 100,000 views, and I don't know why. Like I don't understand why they have and others haven't. So it's like, is it a hashtag? But I tend to use the same hashtag. I don't know why. But
I have no clue about social media. Sometimes I read about it, and then, like you say, something like my Instagram or my reel. And I'm big on reels now. Do the reels, because obviously that's all they want. And I think my most watched reel, and get this, my most watched reel, it's like nearly 500,000 views on reels or something. Right? Okay. It's not travel. It's not motorcycles. Not van life. Nothing. It's me making a beef Wellington.
No.
It's literally just a time lapse of me and my old man. We had a family gathering, and I just put the camera on, just no GoPro, no nothing, just the iPhone on the selfie mode, time lapse it, me making a beef Wellington, rolling it up, bit of music on it, and then just went me making a beef Wellington. And for some reason, I was and some ruthless comments that would all Jews.
Oh yeah, the comments are always fun.
The comments are brilliant. And I tell you, man, it's like, that looks burnt, and that looks this, and all this. But then that's the most watched video on my Instagram. I'm just like, really?
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, the global motorcycle adventurer, double world record holder. A beef Wellington video.
Beef Wellington maker. My gosh, Gordon Ramsay, I'm coming for you.
Right, I'm off to the kitchen to go and make a ham sandwich and put it on Instagram.
Brilliant. But yeah,
dude, I've absolutely loved chatting with you. It's been awesome. What event are you at next? In the UK,
it might be NEC.
NEC, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm not there in official capacity yet. I've not had anyone contact, but I'll certainly make sure I pop up there before. I'm doing a thing down at Toro Adventure in Spain towards the end of November. I think 22nd to 24th. I'm away, so I'll miss the end of the show. But towards the start, I'll make sure I pop up, and if you're there, I'll come and say hello.
Yeah. I think was that the last time we met? Was it London show? May have been London show, actually. That's when I left. Yeah, definitely. It'll be brilliant to see him. And we've caught up a few times in the past just by passing.
I know, mate. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy how paths just cross like that, and then we're away doing something else. But definitely.
Thank you for bringing me on, and I'll take a little. Icelandic little drink.
Good man.
Little drink rum for yourself every time.
Slange. And to Mom, to the Queen. God bless you, Mom. Right, dude. This one will come out next Wednesday. The audio one will be out on a Wednesday. The video will go out the following Monday, as usual, and I'll tag you in all the socials. Right, before we go, I'll pass the floor open to you. If you want to plug anything, if you want to plug any of your tours, if you've got anything coming up that you want to give a shout out to, feel free. Over to you.
No. I mean, obviously, I won't plug too much. I mean, obviously, yeah, you can follow us. You can follow the adventures on at 2moroRider. Obviously, we've got some tours coming up next year. Next year's going to be good. The Globebuster tours, by the sounds of it, you do a few tours as well. So, hey, you never know. I might manhunt you for a tour guide if managing job.
I'm there. Yes, please. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
You're rather experienced there, so I'll keep an eye on you. But yeah, Globebuster tours next year, Trans-Americas, Patagonia, also Africa as well as Iceland. So there's plenty there, but they're filling up fast. I can definitely say that. So, but yeah, just keep following on the at 2moroRider and at Globebuster pages, and just go out there, just do it how you want to do it and live. And to all the viewers and listeners, and there's no right or wrong way. It doesn't have to be a triumph. It doesn't have to be whatever it is. It could be whatever you want to be, and whatever challenge it may be. It doesn't have to be around the world. It could be a challenge of just getting well, because some people are ill out there, or whatever it is. I mean, it's different levels. It could just be traveling just to Africa, like yourself. You just want to go to Africa. Happy days. Or it could just be just me, just wanted to go to Colombia. Go out there. So all I say is just go buy a whiteboard, make it happen, and stop dreaming.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've always said this, folks. You'll be sick of hearing this on this podcast, but the only thing that will stop you living your dream is you. Make it happen. Make a plan. Make it happen. Dude, absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. Absolutely.
And
back to you.
Look forward to the next time we meet up. We'll have a beer in person. Indeed. Right, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Keep doing your thing. Get on out there whenever you possibly can. Look after those that you love. But most importantly, live your life. Woo-ha! Mega, man. Cheers, Rhys. Really enjoyed that, pal.